Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Real Conspiracies. I'm your host, PJ Williams, and this is the podcast where we break down the occult symbolism and hidden messages in your favorite movies and TV shows and sometimes video games. And joining me again for part 3 of an ongoing series is my sister, Elise. Welcome to the show again for the 5th or 6th, however many times.
Millionth time. Yay.
You're basically just like the other hosts on this show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good. I'm so excited. How are you doing?
I had a long day. I got out of work late. I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off to try to get here at the time. Usually you're the one who's late.
I know.
And so this time I'm the one who's late, and it's a work.
We're turning everything on its head.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's what this movie does. It flips everything upside down, including the numbers. We'll get into numerology on this episode. Tell people what we're talking about tonight. I've got so many things that I don't want to do what I did with Prince of Darkness, where I was rearing to go because we had like 3 hours worth of content we tried to shove into 2 hours.
Yeah.
But what are we talking about tonight?
We are talking about The Mouth of Madness, starring Sam Neill, and it is a horror, of course, John Carpenter's horror, and it's the third in this Apocalypse trilogy. Would you say it's more like a psychological thriller, kind of, and a horror? It's definitely a horror, but
this is the thing that I like about John Carpenter is that none of these movies fit perfectly into a theme or genre. Like we said this with Prince of Darkness, is that it has all the beats of a slasher flick, but it's not. It's not a slasher flick. So yeah, I would say this is like psychological horror, cosmic horror.
Cosmic horror, I guess. For sure. Yeah.
It's very meta. It's ahead of its time. I think that's my argument for this movie of why it tanked in the box office. I think this movie was very ahead of its time. And now today, properties like, I was going to bring this up later, but properties like Alan Wake do really successful from using the themes of this movie. It's definitely referencing this movie in a lot of ways. And those things are successful now. But in 1994, when this came out, I think In the Mouth of Madness was ahead of its time. So we'll get into it. This is, like you said, a 1994 American supernatural horror film. That's how that's what it says. Supernatural horror film. I don't know. That's what the Wikipedia or IMDb or wherever I got this from says. Right. It was directed and scored by John Carpenter. I think they were all scored, at least partially scored by John Carpenter.
No, I think they all
these movies.
Yeah.
He scores a lot of his films. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He wanted to get, I wasn't even going to bring this up, but he wanted to get Enter Sandman for that opening and that outro of the movie. And that's why when the credits roll, I'm like, is that Enter Sandman? And then you're like, no, it's close.
No, almost. It's very John
close.
Carpenter's version of Enter Sandman. Yeah.
So still very synth heavy soundtrack. All the music in this is the Carpenters, I think. We'll get to that. So this was directed and scored by John Carpenter. It was written by a guy named Michael DeLuca, who is so interesting. I actually listened to a very long podcast interview with him today, hoping he would bring this movie up because I couldn't find any interviews of him talking about this movie or his writing process. And that's because he has written some movies. He wrote Judge Dredd. And then they cast Sylvester Stallone, and then they rewrote his script, and they still gave him credit. But his script is not the script that we saw in that movie. He did write the script for Freddy's Dead, which is the second Nightmare on Elm Street movie. He's mostly a producer. He was the former president of New Line Cinema, current CEO of Warner Brothers. He's produced everything you can imagine, though. Like he was behind. He's a huge deal. I mean, he was behind The Wedding Singer in the 90s, Boogie Nights, Captain Phillips. He's been nominated for tons of Oscars. He produced the Oscars twice. The guy's a big deal. He's just not a writer for like anything except this movie. And I couldn't find much about his writing process in this. And that's important to what we're going to be talking about tonight with this movie's about a writer. So I found that interesting that he's super big deal. Just this is like one of 2 full movies that he actually wrote. And there's just not a lot of information on that at all. I don't know how much John Carpenter changed from his original script. I don't know anything about that because he just doesn't talk about it. So
that's crazy.
I thought that was
had so many questions about the writer.
I was
letting you do all the work.
I really wanted to talk about Michael DeLuca's writing process for this because of it being about a writer and changing reality and all that stuff. But he doesn't talk. Nope. It was funny because this movie tanked. I already spoiled that. We'll get to the numbers in a minute. Did not do well. And when the interview that I listened to was his greatest heights and his worst failures in his career, that's what it was called. And he never brings this up. So he brings up when he produced the Oscars, he was the only one. It was the only time ever that someone read a card that was the wrong card. So it was like,
it's not my fault. It's not my fault.
It's like, come on down, so and so, and then it was just like, no, you didn't win. Sorry. Like that was the one that he produced.
Harsh.
Yeah,
and everybody knows that one.
Yeah, pretty much.
Even if you don't watch the Oscars.
Yeah. So this movie stars Sam Neill, and it stars Sam Neill the year after Jurassic Park, which is a pretty big deal. It's got Julie Carmen, it's got Jürgen Prochnow, David Warner, and the person everybody likes to talk about, even though he's got a very small bit role in this, is Charlton Heston. Yeah. Every podcast is like freaking out that Charlton Heston did a bit role in this movie for some reason, I guess. But
yeah, I don't know if I'm just missing the boat on that or what. But
I mean, I'm not saying Charlton Heston's not a big deal, but like it's it's a bit role. I don't know. In the 90s, his career was already he was kind of just like retired at this point. Like he did Wayne's World the year after same year as this.
I forgot about that.
Yeah. Anyway, plot summary of this movie really quickly. And again, I will say this: if you have been following up to this point with the Apocalypse trilogy, I would recommend watching this one as well. I really enjoyed it. I think you enjoyed it.
Yes, I did.
Huge spoilers from here on out. So I'll say that the plot summary of this is that because I know that some people will not watch the movie and they just want to hear my coverage. So I always try to give this, and we'll explain the movie pretty thoroughly if you don't want to watch it. So after the bizarre disappearance of Sutter Kane, a renowned horror novelist, his publisher hires John Trent, an insurance investigator, to find him. At first, Trent suspects it as a publicity stunt. However, his perception changes when he and Linda Stiles, Kane's editor, embark on a journey to New England, and soon they find themselves in Hobbs End, a mysterious town no one has ever heard of. Disturbed by vivid nightmares, Trent begins to question his sanity and the reality of his surroundings. Has Kane's dark and twisted imagination materialized into our world, or is Trent losing his mind? So that's the best plot summary that I found that kind of gives the whole movie in a quick summary. This movie cost between $8 and $14 million to make, which is not a huge budget even in the 90s. I was listening to Michael DeLuca today. One of the movies he produced around this time, he produced Jim Carrey right after Pet Detective. New Line Cinema got Jim Carrey for 2 movies back to back, The Mask and Dumb and Dumber. And I think Jim Carrey's salary for Dumb and Dumber was $20 million. So this movie starring Sam Neill the year after Jurassic Park, costing only really like $8 million, is not a big budget, especially with the special effects and things that this movie had. But even at that low budget, it only grossed $8.9 million worldwide.
Ooh, ouch.
Yeah.
Again, not the worst that we've seen, but not good.
The worst we saw was the worst of the worst, though, which was
that's true.
Why can't I think of the name of that movie?
Yeah, the one with him and the ghosts and
I almost call it Charlie Bartlett because it's the same. Odd Thomas. Yeah, that was the worst one we've covered. This got a 58% from Rotten Tomatoes from the critics. It gets a 73% audience score. Because like all of these movies, like every single movie in this trilogy, including The Thing, which is one of the, considered by many the greatest horror movies or one of the best movies of all time. Every one of the movies in John Carpenter's trilogy did not do well in the box office, gained a cult following later on. So obviously that audience score reflects the cult following from later on. The critical consensus, or the critics' consensus on Rotten Tomatoes, says it fails to make the most of its intriguing premise. In the Mouth of Madness remains a decent enough diversion for horror fans and John Carpenter completionists. What's your thoughts?
I guess surface level, I can kind of see that, but I don't agree. I don't agree.
I have the hardest time knowing how to rate this movie because I enjoyed it. My biggest problem with the movie is that I saw it 20 years too late. Yeah. I think if I had seen this before everyone else had kind of done their take on this exact type of story, it would have been mind-blowing. The fact that I knew how it was going to end and that I'd seen other people take ideas from this, and the fact that it was very meta before meta was cool, like it definitely, again, this movie was very ahead of its time, and I think had I seen it in the 90s, I would be, it'd be one of those memorable, never forget type of movies. You know what I mean? One of those mind-blowing type of movies. Seeing it in 2025, I enjoyed it.
Yeah. But it's nothing new.
But it's hard.
Again, at 2025, it's not new.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to, I guess I just feel left out because I wish I would have enjoyed this movie before, you know what I mean? When it was new and fresh and exciting, I think it would have really stuck with me. When this came out, it came out to mostly negative, but mixed reviews. Roger Ebert gave it a 2 out of 4 stars, saying the film has an intriguing premise, but squanders it by relying on hackneyed jump scares and gore.
What?
I don't
compared to no, I don't either. Especially compared to The Thing.
Well, he didn't like The Thing either, so
I know, but I'm just saying
he didn't like Alien. I don't like Roger Ebert, but no, like for me, the way that the movie worked is it went back and forth between like a psychological horror that was like subtle and creepy to like outright jump scares, and it just kept ratcheting up the tension. And honestly, I think that back and forth between something a little bit subtler like a ghost story and something a little bit more like a horror slasher flick, I feel like it worked.
I agree. I thought it was a good balance of both. And for me, being such a pansy that I am, I enjoyed it a lot more because you did have safe times.
It did though. It did. I think it went back and forth. I think it went back and forth really well. Yeah. Lisa Schwartzbaum, writing in Entertainment Weekly, gave it a C rating. She said that much of it is bloated and self-indulgent, and a small part wickedly funny, with only a smattering of successful moments.
Ouch. Like, burn out.
I feel like the Prince of Darkness had like the harshest reviews, but
that's true. Those were hilarious.
Yeah, we got one positive one from Kevin Thomas at the Los Angeles Times. He called it a thinking person's horror picture that dares to be as cerebral as it is visceral. See, now that I like. Go. I feel like that actually describes the movie pretty well.
I think that's a good review. There's a good one. I agree. But
as we're talking about this as a trilogy, I want to talk about the themes. We've hit the themes every time as far as like what this movie brought in themes and what we thought the overall theme was going to be as we were going through it. And I think at this point we can kind of say like what the overall themes are as now we're completing this trilogy. Before I do that though, like how would you rate these 3 movies? The Thing, Prince of Darkness, In the Mouth of Madness, like best to worst? Best to worst? Like top. That's really hard. It is really hard. Because I thought it would be way easier than it actually is for me. Yeah. This is dumb. I've been contemplating this more, at least in the last hour, because I knew you were going to ask, and I'm like, God, I don't know. I've been thinking about it all day, going back and forth on this. Yeah. Well, not for me, wishy-washy. They all bring different things to the picture, they're right? All different genres, even. Yes. They're all different types of horror. Like they're all horror, but they're all them for different reasons. Yeah. Yeah. So I think overall. Yeah. Go ahead. Well, mine is still my favorite one. Still is The Thing. I think because I would watch that. Not that I wouldn't watch any of these on repeat. Like I'm thinking Halloween when I gear myself up to do that kind of stuff. But that's the one. Like I would be like every Halloween I want to watch The Thing. I'm still that way with The Thing. I love that movie. Yeah, but I love the other 2. I would watch them as well. Like for different reasons though. So what was... I would have to say The Thing is my favorite, and then I've been going back and forth. I feel like I want to put this at number 2. I want to put this at number 2 because I like the concept better, and I like the acting much better. Well, I shouldn't say that. Donald Pleasance was great. Oh, yeah. So was Victor Wong. But like... Sam Neill was so good in this movie. You actually get to care about Sam Neill in this movie too. Yeah, yeah. So I feel like I want to put that at number 2. But as far as like, look, The Thing had paranoia down to a T. The Prince of Darkness was about a presence, and it had the atmosphere down to a T. And this was psychological horror. And the only thing that makes me think I'm going to put this in third, again, I'm going back and forth here. The only thing that makes me put this in third is that I shouldn't say it didn't age as well. It's just that I didn't get to appreciate the mind-blowingness of it the way that I would have at seeing it in 1994. So I feel like I probably put this at number 3 only for that reason, but I like it better than Prince of Darkness, if that makes any sense. I know. It does. It's a really tough one.
Same. It is tough, but I think I can understand like Prince of Darkness at number 2 because it's still the test of time, and that it's really hard to get that feel that the Prince of Darkness gives you from start to finish.
Yeah.
And it started and it never stopped. And there's something to that.
That's why I want to put it at number 2, even though I kind of like this movie better.
I know.
It's a tough one. So going through the themes of this, obviously the main theme that we've talked about plenty, and this one is no different, is the nihilism theme. Yes. It's, this one, you said it, but it's like, this one did nihilism a little bit differently. The first one did nihilism as in it ended and it's like, well, everybody's dead. The world's doomed no matter how good our hero is. No matter how much we like Kurt Russell, we kind of think that they're doomed. Yeah. And then the second one was like, we don't care about anyone. We're not going to give them names. And right. You think you saved the day, but the world's going to end in 5 years or 10 years or whatever it was. And it was very nihilistic. And I mean, super nihilism on the, religion is all fake and gay. And so is science and none of it matters. And, right. The Prince of Darkness is going to win. Like very nihilistic. This one did nihilism in a different way because this is the only one. I shouldn't say it this way, but you know what I'm saying. Kurt Russell wasn't supposed to be as likable as he was, but it's Kurt Russell. In this one, Sam Neill as a character, not as the actor, as a character was, you could root for him a lot easier. You liked him. He did everything right. And none of it mattered. Like this is the one where the character did everything right. And the end was even worse for him than Kurt Russell might have had some hope. This was a very nihilistic ending. In all three of these, we talked about a concept of nihilism. And I suggest going back and watching those if you haven't, because I'm not going to go through it super deep, but this idea of the alchemical coagulation, the idea that you're going to break something down and then rebuild it. So basically breaking down religion and science and reality and then reshaping them into something else. We also talked about Baphomet symbolism in all of them. There is that here in the Red Room that we'll see at the end, the union of opposites concept. But one of the things I didn't mention about that whole alchemical coagulation Baphomet symbolism that comes through in this trilogy is that on the arms of the Baphomet statue are two words, solve, which means dissolve, and coagula, which means coagulate. So to break down a substance and reform it. So even without specifically showing the Baphomet, the Prince of Darkness definitely had the Baphomet stuff in it, but without specifically showing it, you're getting that whole concept, the breaking down, the union of opposites. All of that's happening in all three of these movies. I want to come back to that when we get to the Black Church and the Red Room. But that's a theme that I noticed. Am I missing anything on the nihilism before I move on to other themes?
He just does it three different ways, if you will, which is, I'm not saying anything new here, but I just like that this is a theme, but he doesn't repeat it. It's not wash, rinse, repeat.
It doesn't. It's funny because it doesn't feel bashed over the head exactly because he's just showing it in different ways, which makes it effective. And I'm not a nihilist, so I don't like that part of it. But it really shows the talent of John Carpenter. Disagree with his worldviews 100%. I'm the complete opposite on this. But as an artist, it's very compelling work for that reason, is he does it in three different ways. The first one is body horror. It's, in some ways it's science won't save you. In the second one, it's kind of a mind horror and, dream logic and all of that stuff, and religion won't save you. And this one is just reality, like reality horror, cosmic horror, which is the next theme. It's cosmic horror, right? Cosmic horror. The definition is that it's horror that emphasizes the existential dread of humanity's insignificance in a vast, indifferent universe populated by incomprehensible cosmic beings. And that's exactly what this one is.
And there's a touch of that in each of them. This one just really hammers the point.
There was definitely a touch of it in all of them. I feel like, I think I said this in Prince of Darkness, where it's like, it's got elements of The Thing and Mouth of Madness, and it was a bridge in that way. Yeah. And then this one just took that element of reality horror from the Prince of Darkness and just like brought it front and center.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So he builds this up. And what I really want to hammer home also is that while we can appreciate how well he does this, because I think you're going to hear this from us a lot, is how much we appreciate aspects of all of these movies. You've heard, if you've listened to the other two, you've heard this before, but you can appreciate him as an artist while 100% disagreeing with everything he's saying. So if you can hold both of those.
That's basically the premise of this entire show is I disagree with everything that these people stand for, Hollywood, the occult, but I love movies. And so this is the podcast for that niche group of people.
If you can hold both together, that's what this is. So, and I feel like this movie really is a good culmination of that viewpoint that you bring to this show.
And if you just want to hate Hollywood and what they stand for, we're going to get into all of that too.
We'll get into that too. We'll hate with you.
The other theme that comes through on this is this idea of thought creation as we're talking about reality horror. It's not just that our reality breaks down at the subatomic level, as they said in Prince of Darkness.
Three times.
They did say it 3 times, but in this one, it's the creation through thought form. And this is where we get the concepts of tulpas and egregores. I'm going to give a brief description, but I will suggest that you go back, not to just listen to this, but Jesse and I did an episode on Gravity Falls. And in that episode, I went deep into what an egregore is, what a tulpa is, how that works. But a tulpa is a being or thought form that's created through spiritual practices and concentration. So usually this is something more like an imaginary friend or a voice in your head or something like that. There was a movie where I don't know why I'm thinking of different movies today, but there was a movie where a kid had Chuck Norris as an imaginary friend and he seemed to manifest in his reality, right? I think it's called Sidekicks.
Why have I never seen this?
Sidekicks is Chuck Norris as a tulpa. That's how you understand a tulpa. An egregore is just brought up the most random Chuck Norris movie to throw at you.
That's awesome. Awesome.
An egregore is a non-physical entity or thought form that's created by a group of people's collective thoughts and emotions. So this is Slender Man is the best way to think of this. You get creepypastas about Slender Man. People start getting scared reading the stories about Slender Man, and then people start seeing and experiencing Slender Man. That is an egregore. That's the difference. So this goes into both ideas of thought creation, but I want to put that out there before we get into what happens. So that way, if I'm saying things like tulpa or egregore, you'll understand. Egregores are sustained by belief, ritual, and sacrifice from the public consensus. This is the type of consensus magic, which we'll come back to. And then just the nature of reality itself, I think, is one other note on a theme that comes up through this. I mean, Linda Stiles literally says, a reality is what we just tell each other it is. The quote from the movie is, sane and insane could easily switch places. If the insane were to become the majority, you would find yourself locked in a padded cell wondering what happened to the world, which is literally what happened. It was a great bit of, I almost want to not call it foreshadowing because it would be foreshadowing if it didn't start at the end and then come back. You know what I'm saying?
True. That's true.
It's kind of foreshadowing. Like, yeah, that's where this ends.
Aftershadowing.
Aftershadow? I don't know what the word.
After
5 o'clock shadow?
That's it.
One of those. And then Sutter Kane's famous line, I think, therefore you are. This is the tulpa, the egregore, the creation of things through reality. Anything else to say? I'm not trying to move through the themes too quick, but I am excited to get into some of the notes that we have and some of the stuff that happens.
No, me too. The only thing I will say, which we said in Prince of Darkness for sure, I think we said it in the thing too, but just to keep an eye out for this, like, John Carpenter is not subtle, and if he wants you to see it, you're going to see it. Like I think, therefore you are. That he says it flat out, but it's also said before that and after that, like that idea, that concept. So things like that, I know that we'll.
You know what I just realized? Because I think you're right. You keep saying John Carpenter's not subtle, and I think what it is that John Carpenter's first hit was a slasher flick, and so I think what's happening is he learned the story. Well, the story beats of a good slasher flick are subtle horror and then somebody stabbing you, right? And so John Carpenter's messages and themes in his movies come across as subtle, and then they hit you like a freight train. So I feel like that's what he does in this movie as well. Yeah. So it's just his ideas are all Mike Myers. They're just waiting in the shadows with a big butcher knife, right?
Exactly.
And then my favorite theme that I just wrote down, I don't have any notes on this, but it's just like demons influencing our media. Like that is, I don't know if that's a theme, but like that's what we're going to talk about tonight. Like that is the reason I wanted to do this one. Yeah.
Yes.
So
this has been a year in the making. So here we go.
It has been. When I first heard, because I'd never seen this movie, but when I first heard how it ended, because that's how I heard about this, is I was listening to a podcast, someone mentioned this and said how it ended, and I was like, I've never seen this. I already know exactly everything that I want to say about this, though. And it kind of brings together my thesis of this show. So this, I believe, honestly, guys, will be the most important episode of Real Conspiracies I've ever done. So like, share, do all that stuff. I really have something that I want to get to here. Before we get to the movie, one last thing is I just want to talk about influences. Because the influences, that's what I said made it hard for me to enjoy this movie as much as I wanted to, was what it influenced and how that's come out of it. But the influences on this movie are very obvious. They're not subtle about this at all. You said John Carpenter's not subtle. In this way, he's not subtle. HP Lovecraft, he literally calls the entities the old ones. So not subtle on that influence. And then they literally name drop. Yeah, the imagery is not subtle. The way that he named all of Sutter Kane's books after HP Lovecraft books, the way that In the Mouth of Madness is named after At the Mountains of Madness. It's not subtle on the HP Lovecraft angle of this at all. And then the other one they're not subtle on is Stephen King, because they literally name drop Stephen King like 3 times in this movie. I think we're talking about the threes. I think it is literally 3 times they name drop Stephen King. Sutter Kane outsells Stephen King. You know, that whole thing over and over and over again. Mm-hmm. So those are the 2 obvious influences. If you read articles on this movie, people will argue, oh, is Sutter Kane based on Stephen King or H.P. Lovecraft? It's like, yes.
Yes.
Duh.
The answer is yes.
Clearly, yes, as in both.
Yes.
I don't know why people feel like that's a legitimate, like, it can't be both.
I don't know why it's an argument. Like, why are you asking
They argue on freaking movie forums about that, and I'm like, guys, yes, the answer is both. Clearly, right.
It can be both, and it is.
Or well, like, I didn't even write this in my notes, but somebody's like, oh yeah, well, this Hobbs End thing sounds exactly like the Stephen King book. I'm like,
no way.
The Stephen King book was Stephen King writing in the Cthulhu mythos of H.P. Lovecraft. So, like, yes, you could clearly both even there.
Yeah, I think you can point to H.P. Lovecraft in almost any horror anyway. So
that's true. Yeah, it's ubiquitous with horror. And you can't talk about cosmic horror without talking about H.P. Lovecraft, which we will. Before we get into that, I want to talk about who influenced H.P. Lovecraft, which was this book titled The King in Yellow, which I had only found out recently from a friend of mine, Cody. Shout out to you. Thank you for showing me this. But there's a guy named Robert W. Chambers, and in 1895, he wrote this collection of 9 short stories called The King in Yellow. And you listened to a little bit of this book as well as I did. Mm-hmm. Basically, and tell me where I'm getting this wrong, and I don't want to get into The King in Yellow too much, but I just find this so fascinating. This guy wrote a story about a play called The King in Yellow with a character in it named The King in Yellow. And people who read the play past Act 1 become insane, basically invite entities into their lives, and things go crazy. And our author Lynn Carter called it an absolute masterpiece, probably the single greatest book of weird fantasy written in this country between the death of Poe and the rise of Lovecraft. And I absolutely agree. It's really, really compelling stuff. He also said it was an obvious influence on Lovecraft himself. So when I read about The King in Yellow, I was like, oh, okay, this is where Lovecraft got some of his ideas from very clearly. But I thought it was pretty cool. What did you think of that? I mean, it doesn't have a lot of bearing on this movie, maybe, but I thought it was interesting.
But I think it does, because not only did it influence Lovecraft, but the idea of because there was kind of this theme of the mentally handicapped, not handicapped, but already mentally kind of off.
There's another theme in it too that I'm going to save for later, but about artists. But yeah.
Yeah. All right. I think I know, so I'll try not to say it. But he definitely, I don't want to say he picks on, but like they're the ones who are influenced first, right? Or influenced.
He does say that pretty openly in the book. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it also, which you see in Prince of Darkness, and I think you see a bit in Mouth of Madness. And then you see that it's driving the whole place. Like anybody who's been there, they have death chambers that people, after they read it, are just going to use in the King in Yellow, right?
Yeah. It's literally like the suicide chambers of Futurama. I said something wrong a second ago. I said this doesn't have a huge bearing on this movie as much as it does in Lovecraft. I take that back. The first short story in The King in Yellow ends with The King in Yellow getting widely published and people reading it and going mad in the streets. So this clearly has an influence on this movie. I should take
at least
that
the
back.
first one.
Yeah, the first story does for sure, but I thought that was an interesting one. Nobody ever brings up The King in Yellow when they talk about this movie, but if you just read the first short story in The King in Yellow and then you watch this movie, you'll be like, oh, okay, that's a clear influence on this. So
I see it. Yeah.
So I thought it was cool. Obviously, the big influence, though, is a short story by HP Lovecraft called The Call of Cthulhu. And I told you that I found why this Apocalypse trilogy is a trilogy. I had never found a single person who's mentioned this. So tell me if I'm off. Maybe I'm wrong. But I read Call of Cthulhu this week and my mind was blown because I was like, oh, this Apocalypse trilogy is just the Call of Cthulhu broken down into 3 movies. There are 3 parts in the Call of Cthulhu. Part 1 is about a guy named Francis Wayland Thurston who talks about being driven mad by the discovery of an ancient forbidden knowledge in the winter of 1926. He finds a bas-relief of Cthulhu, which he repeatedly calls throughout the book, The Thing. So something, a forbidden knowledge uncovered in the winter called The Thing. That's part 1. Get this, it gets weirder. Part 2, the great old ones lie and sleep, communicating with a cult of believers through dreams, as well as an occult book called the Necronomicon, and they will only return when the stars align. How is that not Prince of Darkness?
Right.
Dreams,
exactly
a book
Prince of
will come back when the stars align. That's literally the Prince of Darkness. That's Act 2 of Call of Cthulhu. Call of Cthulhu Part 3 is where Thurston goes to investigate further. So he starts traveling to investigate because he thinks it's a hoax. Does that sound familiar yet?
Yeah.
He's trying to disprove that it's a hoax. He meets a widow. No, there's no kid on a bike. He meets a widow who gives him a manuscript about a man who finds a place that shouldn't exist and awakens Cthulhu.
Get out.
I'm not, dude. That's the trilogy. That's the Apocalypse trilogy in 3 parts. Are the 3 parts of the Call of Cthulhu, one of the most widely published and read and audible books of all time. That's only an hour and a half listen on Audible for free, and no one else put that together that I've heard. I was like, when I read it yesterday, just on a whim, I was like, I know this is based on Call of Cthulhu to some degree, and I haven't listened to it in a long time or read it in a long time. I have it in paperback, and I read it a while ago. And I just listened to it again with this trilogy in mind, and I was like, holy freaking crap. All 3 movies are all 3 parts in the same order.
I read the first 2 parts. I haven't gotten to the 3rd yet. But yes, it's all. So
I don't know how nobody else said this. Because there's literally forums where people are like, how is this a trilogy? And I'm like, well, there it is. It's the Call of Cthulhu. Because HP Lovecraft did it. It is just the Call of Cthulhu, but like instead of 3 half-hour long parts, it's 3 2-hour long parts, roughly based on those parts. Yeah, I mean, they're not like one for one, but like the themes in each part is the exact same.
The important parts are all the same.
Are all
That's what matters. They're all the same. That is mind-blowing. You ever have so many things you want to say and they just kind of like crash and then you can't get them out? Yeah. That's where I'm at right now. Traffic jam.
I thought you would find that interesting because as soon as I read it, I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh, that blows my mind. That's amazing. So, okay, I know we're going to get into this. So I guess put a pin in this thought for the moment. But it's like all 3 of these movies were not written by John Carpenter.
Correct. I'm so glad you said that because I didn't put it in my notes because I was hoping you would say that exact thing.
Gotcha.
So yes, put a pin in that because you are correct. These were not all written by John Carpenter. He was added onto The Thing and Mouth of Madness last minute. And yet he claims they're a trilogy, and yet they line up so perfectly with the Call of. It's almost like something else had a hand in making this
orchestrated
trilogy.
This
wasn't John Carpenter, right?
Right.
It's too perfect.
It is too perfect. Gosh, that's just like hammers home. I'm so excited. Okay.
We'll come back to it. Let's get into the movie. Sorry. Yay. We're going to start with what happens in this movie. And this movie opens up with Sam Neill's character being dragged into an insane asylum. And I don't have a ton of notes on any one of these parts because there's bigger things I want to get to later. So slow me down if I'm going too quick. But I like that, it opens up with him getting pulled into an insane asylum. He's acting like a madman. He honestly does a really good job.
Okay, I was going to say this. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to detract from where we're going, but there are actors who it's them every time. Like Tom Cruise is always Tom Cruise, right? And Sam Neill kind of has that in that he always
except in like the
across...
4th of July or Born on the 4th of July was the one I'd give to Tom Cruise or Lex Grossman. But most of the time, yes.
True. But most of the time you're like, yeah, same dude.
Right.
But Sam Neill, he always has this really classy.
I don't know if
that's who he is in real life. Well, he would have been a great James Bond. I'm just going to say
in the look. I'm a Roger Moore fan, and he would have been a great Roger Moore style James Bond. Anyway, just
true. But he has that class and elegance no matter what movie he's in, and yet he plays a madman beautifully, especially the laughter at the end.
He does so good in this movie.
He's so good.
My biggest problem with his acting in this movie is that his New Zealand accent shows through twice, and it drove me nuts.
Really strong.
On my second drive through, I was like, "Wow, nobody called him on that."
I thought that too.
Because he does a good American accent, and then his New Zealand accent comes through twice, and I was just like, "Man, that really stuck out."
Yeah, like, oh, that's right. I remember now.
Niva. I was like, really? Nobody corrected him on Niva.
You didn't stop him? All right. I agree. I think he looked more mad in the beginning than he did when he had the crosses all over him. I'll just say that now. I know we're getting there, but
yes. Yeah. So he gets asked for a black crayon. He draws crosses everywhere. And this is interesting because Prince of Darkness was the same thing, right? I mean, this is the other thing that John Carpenter's saying in these films is, Christ won't save you. Kurt Russell says this in The Thing. Then the second movie is like, we're in a church surrounded by a bajillion crosses.
They're everywhere.
Nothing. And then in this one, it's like, again, the billion crosses won't save him because literally Sutter Kane breaks into his cell right after this. One of my favorite little Easter eggs. I don't even know if it's an Easter egg, but like the music that comes over the radio is by the Carpenters. And I was like,
not the John Carpenters.
So that's what I was saying earlier. The Carpenters did all the music in this. It was either John Carpenter or the Carpenters.
Or the Carpenters.
Which I love. I love that little nod there. But we get this idea that he's locked himself in here on purpose, that he's not mad. Because you're right, he does seem to calm down. And when he's talking to that guy, he's like, you just want to be in here because it's safer. And he's like, pretty much. And we were just left wondering what's going on in the outside world. We get this flashback because this whole movie's told to, what is that? He's not a reporter, policeman. I don't know what he's, some government agent.
Yeah.
They never explain.
No, they don't. I think he's like there to make sure he's one of the others. Like everybody
the world's
else
gone crazy and they're trying to figure out why, and they think he might know, and he does know, but
he does.
Whether they take, whether they believe him or they can do anything about it, it's kind of like the nihilistic ending of this. But we get a flashback and or not flashback, but it goes back to him telling his whole story. It starts with him being an insurance I almost said salesman, but that's not right. Investigator. Yeah, insurance investigator. And he mostly investigates phony claims and busts frauds, and he's really good at it. And he's got this line that tells you who he thinks he is in the beginning of this, which is, I'm my own man. No one pulls my strings. This is repeated later on, but to less effect because he's starting to not believe in himself by the end of the movie. But that's his character, right? He's his own man. Nobody pulls his strings. He gets told about this missing novelist, Sutter Kane. He's apparently the only person in the entire world who's never heard of Sutter Kane. I love how he asks who Sutter Kane is at one point when he's literally in the office of Arcane Publishing with like a big Sutter Kane like thing behind him. He's like, I don't know who this is.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe he's not very observant of his surroundings, but when
or
he's
just
asked,
insulting.
Yeah, he's just being when he's asked to investigate whether or not Sutter Kane is really missing or missing for a publicity stunt. This is when a crazy guy with an axe breaks through the window and he's like, do you read Sutter Kane? And the cops just shoot the crap out of him. But before this, we get a view of his eyes, and they're totally blue. They got double pupils, which I thought was very interesting.
Yeah.
What do you think that whole thing is about?
That's a good question.
I tried to look into it like symbolically for double pupils, and I couldn't really find much, but maybe I'm just not thinking about it correctly.
Is it the pupil or the iris? Like the colored part?
No, the pupil was doubled.
Pupil. Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't know what that meant unless it was just a creative way to make crazy eyes.
I mean, definitely that.
There's more to it, I'm sure.
I don't know. It's splitting apart of, I don't know, people bleeding from their eyes. It had
eyes are the window.
Definitely the creepy. Had a creepy effect, though. I mean, I liked it as an effect. It was really cool. So we find out that Sutter Kane is missing. And if I'm going past anything you want to talk about, pause me, because I'm just getting through the story so we can get to the parts. So Sutter Kane is missing. We see a TV news reporter talking about this, and they ask the main question. They set up the thesis of the film in the background, which is, when does fiction become religion?
Yes.
And I thought that was a nice subtle way to like bring in the kind of question the movie's asking, because it's in the background.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. He does that a lot too. So I say he's not subtle, but I mean,
well, he did that in Prince of Darkness.
Yes.
You're right.
Yeah. So he can be, but like you said, and then
it's subtle.
If you missed it, don't worry.
It's kind of like, it's like I said, this is why I relate it to a horror or a slasher flick, because it's like you hear the rustling in the bushes and maybe there's a killer outside my window. That's the subtle part. And then the killer jumps through the window and stabs the person to death. That's where it stops being subtle. That's how he does his storytelling too.
Yes. Agreed. Yeah,
because that's subtle there, but it's like stated directly at the end of the movie. So it doesn't stay subtle.
No. No, I'm glad you brought that up, because I wrote that line down too. I'm like, and that's this. Here it is. So like you said, the thesis. Anyway, I know there's more. Keep going.
Yeah, so after this, he goes to Arcane Publishing, which is, that just speaks for itself. Arcane. And they talk about how Sutter Kane's work has like effects on people, that certain readers are, facing distortion, memory loss, severe paranoid reaction. I thought this was interesting because this is mirrored today in like doom scrolling. Like legitimately, have you read papers on like people who cannot stop staring at like Instagram feeds and Twitter, and how they're experiencing literally the symptoms are the exact same: distortion, memory loss, severe paranoid reactions. And the memory loss one's interesting because I didn't realize how big of a problem that memory loss is, but like actual like lost time, the way that you hear like alien abduction people talk about lost time is happening to people. Like they're like, I thought I just looked at Instagram for 30 seconds, like legitimately confused. They scrolled and ingested content. And then 3 hours have gone by and they don't remember anything they just read. Right. So I thought that was interesting. There's like a parallel today. This is why the movie, I feel like, again, is ahead of its time.
Big time. It's telling you what's coming.
Well, that's my thoughts. Yeah. And this movie was super meta. And to continue into the meta, this is why it's such a perfect time to cover this movie. The only thing that would have been better is if we covered this movie 2 months ago, because this movie's meta narrative and the way that I said it has a cult following has actually come through into the world this year in a big way. I got to share my screen really quick. I totally forgot to set this up beforehand.
Oh, I don't want to know.
They published In the Mouth of Madness, the hardcover book. Get this. This looks like a joke. This is arcanepublishing.com, right? Seems like a joke. It's literally says it's written by Sutter Kane. This Halloween, will you read Sutter Kane, In the Mouth of Madness?
No.
Reality isn't what it used to be. From the mind of Sutter Kane, the world's most widely read horror author, comes his latest, most anticipated work, In the Mouth of Madness. Following the success of Whisper in the Dark, The Thing in the Basement, The Hobbs End Horror, The Feeding, Haunter Out of Time, and Breathing Tunnel, his latest novel promises to scare you once before, coming soon. This seems like a fake website, right? Playing into the meta narrative of the movie that's now gained a cult following. It's not, though. You can literally buy the hardcover book In the Mouth of Madness as of October 1st of 2025 this year. And it's a real book. You can read reviews on it. You can order it off Amazon. It is real. It's not actually written by someone named Sutter Kane, but they played into the meta narrative of it.
Right.
I didn't write down the name of the actual author. Some people say it's good.
Who cares?
I don't really care. I thought that was interesting. If it was on Audible, I would have listened to it this week.
Right.
But it wasn't. But look at that.
Wow. It's right there. Oh my gosh. Trent and everything.
Yeah. So I thought that was a very interesting, very meta tie-in. So
well, now I know what you're getting for Christmas. So
in the Mouth of Madness hardcover. I mean, I'd read it, I guess. Anything to say about Arcane Publishing? I know I'm skipping past a lot of stuff. I mean,
I think the only thing, this is going to seem silly, but I'll bring it up again later, is just the editor. I can't remember her
Linda
real
Stiles.
name.
She's the sexual tension in that office.
She's got the whole librarian thing going on, and she's playing with her glasses, and and then they're flirting with each other outside of the office.
Yeah, outside of the elevator. It's very there. And I know why you're bringing it up, because later it gets weird.
Yes.
And it gets weird in a very interesting, very John Carpenter way. But
yes, exactly. But this isn't weird, right? Like, this seems like typical Hollywood, like selling sex.
John Carpenter's playing flirting. On the trope, though.
Absolutely. And so it's not awkward and weird here. I just want to make that point, I guess.
No, but, and I hate to bring this up on every single episode of the Apocalypse trilogy that we've done, but I have to. There's not a lot of articles. I mean, there's a lot of articles. Prince of Darkness is not a lot of articles. Mouth of Madness, even less articles written about it. But what you will find, without a doubt, a movie that nobody is writing about, you will find feminist bloggers talking about what a misogynist piece of crap this movie is, because she's sexualized and he punches her in the face. And do we want equality? Do we want equality or not? Because, like, just to be fair, I'm not for this. I'm sorry, I won't get off on a tangent for long. But but are men and women equal, or should men not hit women? I just want to know what the answer is. Pick one. It has to be one or the other. Because I agree. Right. But in this movie, this is the one time where it's like, that's a really bad example, because she was possessed trying to kill him when he punched her in the face. Actually, the first time it was because he was trying to save her life. So, like, I think we can be okay with Sam Neill punching this woman in the face, even twice. Yeah. Probably should have punted her the third time with the upside down, Silent Hill horror monster thing that she becomes. Probably deserved a punch.
Yeah, was that okay?
It's misogyny, man.
I know.
Anyway, I thought that was hilarious, because I'm like, why is the first article that comes up when I'm trying to find stuff about this movie some feminist rag talking about the misogyny of a movie that nobody else is writing about, that's from 30 years ago?
Good night. Stop it.
Anyway, I'll stop ranting.
I might have cheered. I'm not a bad feminist.
I thought it was funny. After this, we get this dream sequence. So he goes back and he's starting to read these novels, and he gets this weird dream sequence. And in this dream sequence, he sees the posters, and he's looking behind it, and he's seeing something that we won't find out about till later. And then he walks into the alley, and he sees this police officer beating up a bum, which is interesting, because this reminded me of Prince of Darkness again, with this, like, demonic hobos reappearing.
Agreed. Yep.
Which, again, you said it. The King in Yellow literally says these are the people who are going to be the most susceptible to the mind virus first, and it's showing that in a way. Same as Prince of Darkness did.
Yep.
And then on the wall, we see something that I thought I saw we both thought it was something different than it was, which was, there's 3 letters written on the wall, and I thought it was ICS or something like that. It's actually ICA. When he has a dream about it again, the police officer changes, the bums change, there's this weird demonic ritual going on, and the ICA becomes I can see, which is interesting, because it's not like it was ICA stands for I can see.
That's I just thought he was like ICS. Interrupted. By the cop. That's what I thought.
Wait. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was always I can see, and it was just zoomed up on the first 3 letters ICA, and I'm just being really dumb right now.
No, I don't think so, because
it literally looked like, to me, I watched a few times, it looked like it transformed.
And it might have. Maybe I'm being
I
remember
really
watching
maybe it was just zoomed up on now that I'm realizing ICA.
Well, because I thought that's what he was going to say. No, I thought that's what it was going to say, I can see, because the kid in the bookstore, like, who looked like a meth head,
Well, it does say I can see in his dream, but when we see it in reality, it's just the letters ICA, and I don't think it has anything after it.
It doesn't. I think because the cop interrupted and started beating him up before he could finish. That was my guess.
Right.
If that makes sense.
No, that makes sense. Now that I'm saying it, now that we're recording, I feel really dumb. But the only reason I brought it up is because like my mind instantly went to one thing that I know is not what I'm saying. But it looked like CIA written out of order. And like the only reason I bring it up, I don't think this movie had CIA influence necessarily, but there is something interesting here. One, Michael DeLuca was the producer on the movie Wag the Dog, which is about a producer that works for the CIA. Michael DeLuca is the writer for this movie. So I thought that was interesting. But the only reason I actually bring it up is because if I had to put down the two most influential and important things that I've covered when it comes to understanding movies, how they influence culture and the occult and all that stuff, is that there are two huge things. One, I've talked about it before, and I don't think is the case here, is Mockingbird. The CIA directly involved in changing things in Hollywood and putting messages in movies. So like that's the number one biggest thing that I talked about from a human angle, from a conspiracy government angle. And the other one is the demonic influence. And I think this movie, even though I found that interesting little time with Michael DeLuca and Wag the Dog, go back and watch the episode if you're curious what I'm talking about. Because Conrad Breen is the name of him in the movie, but that guy was literally based on a real CIA agent who comes in and uses producers to mess with things in movies, which is a real thing that happens. But then this movie goes on to the more like directly demonically influenced. So if I had to say like the two most important things that I believe, the kind of my thesis is what I'm putting together with this episode, my thesis on what these movies represent in Hollywood. I've talked about the Mockingbird stuff at length in the past. This one is the other side of the coin. This one is direct demonic channeling. Like it's not subtle in this movie at all. We'll come back to that. But I just want to bring that up. I saw ICA and I'm like, just made me think of CIA. Now I'm realizing I'm very dumb. But anyway.
No, I don't think so, because it isn't interesting. Why just those three? I don't know. It's still interesting.
I don't know.
And I think,
well, I mean, because later he goes into the bookstore, right? And he
yes.
this is why I love Sam Neill in this role. This nerd comes up to him and he's like, I can see. And he's like, huh? And he's like, I can see. He sees you, which is super creepy. And his response to it is, tell him I said hi.
I know.
Like, we'll come back to it at the crossroads in this movie, but Sam Neill is the horror movie hero that we never get ever.
Yes.
That's what I love.
Bravo.
That's one of the things I love about this movie.
Yeah.
But he's the best hero in the three. And look, Kurt Russell in The Thing, everybody loves him, but Sam Neill is the best hero in this trilogy.
Agreed. You're not supposed to, again, we said it, you're not supposed to like Kurt Russell as much as you do, but he's Kurt Russell. Another one of those actors, like every time he shows up, you're like, that guy.
Yeah.
But this one, you actually get to care about Sam Neill's character. Trent, what's his first name? Why can't I remember? John?
Is it John Trent? I think. I always just want to call him Trent too, because they talk about him by his last. I think it's John Trent.
Yeah. So you still don't really care about his name, but you do care about him.
John Trent and McCready are like the two names that you get out of this whole trilogy. Everybody else is just the priest, or whatever.
Literally the priest, and then whatever else you want to make up for everybody else.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, I just thought the whole dream sequence was interesting. I didn't have a lot to say on it other than it reminded me of Prince of Darkness and that. But what were your thoughts before I move on?
The only thing that I got nothing here except just I noticed it was almost annoying how many times he kept having the dream sequence.
Agree. That's why I watched it so many times. And I'll be honest, guys, like I really wanted to do, you and me had this conversation. We were going to cover this movie in a very different way than we're going about it at this point.
Yeah.
The way that we did Prince of Darkness was, and the influence that John Carpenter had over this film compared to that film are very different. In that film, he had 100% creative control, and he literally said every scene is pregnant with meaning, like deeply. So that movie, we had to go through scene by scene and look at the background. This movie, there's a couple of themes I really want to hit on and get to that we're going to dive deeper into. But we talked about, like, do we want to go through this movie and look for every symbol in it? Because I was looking through, like, the bums circling around the guy and cutting off his middle finger and the things on the wall. And I was trying to make, like, some occult sense out of it. And I'm not sure that it's there. But I did have to wonder because how many times they replayed that scene.
Yeah.
So I watched that a lot, and I'm like, there might be more there than I'm getting. But we also made a conscious decision to skip over some of the like really subtle background symbolism to get to the themes of this, because I think that's where the meat of this one is.
That's where this one's more important. It's more conceptual, whereas Prince of Darkness was much more about the symbols.
Dude, it was like we didn't even cover half of what we could have with the Prince of Darkness.
We didn't. You said it could have been 3 hours. It probably could have been 6.
I mean, like legit, no joke, could have been. Yeah,
we could have talked.
That
for days.
One was like every scene, numerology, symbols,
just the way the actors moved and the way they they were blinking like this. That was meaning something. Seriously, it was ridiculous.
It was that bad. Yeah, that one was crazy. Yeah. So after this, after the bookstore and that whole thing, he takes these books home. He's reading them. He's talking about how they're starting to influence him. And he's like, no, I'm just not. They're not getting to me. Right. But this is where you get like almost. I don't even want to give this theory credence exactly because I don't think that's what this movie's doing. But it kind of makes you wonder if he did just fall asleep in the rest of the movies. And I hate that theory.
I hate that, but I get it.
But in this one, it's at least legitimate. Like everything after he wakes up is, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But he wakes up and he sees the line. Okay, I didn't catch this the first time. He starts cutting up the novels. I'm like, how does he know how to cut them up? When I watched it again, I was like, oh, every novel's got this like weird red line in the background that he's following.
I missed that too.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not the only one who missed it. I'm like, what? Nope. How does he know how to cut them this way? And it's if you look again closely, there's like this weird red line on all the covers. And if he cuts out those red lines and pieces them together, it makes a state of New Hampshire, I believe. Mm-hmm. And there's a dot or a star that indicates where Hobbs End would be, even though it's a fictional town. He wants to find. He believes it's a real town. Or was at one point. It's just not on maps anymore. So they're going to go on a road trip. Him and Linda Stiles are going to go on this road trip and find Hobbs End. And just to skip a lot of unnecessary stuff, this road trip has some interesting conversations, mostly about reality. This is where Linda Stiles starts saying reality is just what we tell each other it is. It's very relativistic, very nihilistic. This goes in themes with John Carpenter's belief and what he's been saying through the entire trilogy, right?
Yes. Yep.
And we get that whole thing. And then where things really get interesting is she's driving and she drives through a portal, essentially, right? Like she's driving, all of a sudden the road becomes the sky. Then she's going through this tunnel that we'll see later. And then it's a covered bridge. And all of a sudden they're in Hobbs End. And Hobbs End is an interesting name because Hob is an old word for devil. Kind of like how in Prince of Darkness they said Old Scratch. These are old names for the devil. So Old Scratch, Hob. That's Devil's End is essentially what this place is. And if I'm skipping over too much, let me know because I'm just trying to get to the Black Church.
You just missed the obvious female driving joke, but I'll let it go this time.
The one time they let a woman drive, they end up in an alternate dimension, and she didn't even tell him.
It's a kid.
She hits. That's true too. She does hit a kid. She hits Hayden Christensen and almost deprives us of the Star Wars prequels.
Almost. Gosh, almost.
This was Hayden Christensen's first movie, by the way, and he is the kid on the bicycle. So
yeah,
I thought that was interesting.
So if you didn't think those lines were delivered well, that's why. Okay, I'm done.
It wasn't even the lines as much as like the mask that they put him in was like my least favorite special effect in this movie. But
yeah, it wasn't well done.
Worse than the girl. The girl looked like something out of the Leprechaun movie.
Goonies.
That too, yeah. Goonies or Leprechaun is what it made me think of.
Oh, Leprechaun too. Hey, you guys. Anyway, I was waiting for her to say it.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Anyway,
you're my mommy.
It was still
Mommy's Day. Oh, she doesn't say Mother's Day. It's Mommy's Day.
Right.
That was fun. So I'm skipping over a lot, but there's somewhere I want to get. So we get to the hotel, and if I missed anything, tell me. But we get to the hotel, and this is where we start to see this freaky painting, which I thought was a nice subtle effect. Eventually, this painting morphs from you see the back of these people, then you start to see them to turn, and their faces look weird. And by the end, they're just literally like straight out of the Thing. They're Cthulhu, Lovecraftian horrors, and I couldn't tell if it was supposed to be, because I thought it was supposed to be Trent and Styles. As they turned, it looked more like them, and then they morphed into just grotesque Lovecraftian beings. We get the little old lady from Happy Gilmore as an axe murderer. Which is
that sweet old lady. She turns her husband into coleslaw. Chops her husband into coleslaw. She wouldn't do that.
Well,
she did.
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
So when they get into the hotel, this is where Linda's starting to be like, look, this is straight out of his books. This is how I know the floorboard's going to creak. This is how I know it's going to happen here and there and the other. And he's like, this is obviously not from the books. There would be a black church out this window. And she's like, no, it'd be out that window. And they look, and there's a huge black church. What do you want to say about this before I move on? Because I've got a lot of stuff to say about the black church.
The juxtaposition between the window he opens, which is this beautiful barn, old,
very New England looking.
New England.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And then this Byzantine church that when she opens the window, it's just so different, obviously. But I think it's worth noting, like, the feel out of both windows. I don't think that was an accident.
No, that's a good point. I didn't even think about it that way. It's the juxtaposition.
Peace. Not so much peace.
It's like God's country, Satan's country. Like that's the one way to look at it, right? And this black church, they say that there used to be, because it doesn't make any sense in this New England town. It's this very, I'll put it in post so you guys can see it if you're watching this on YouTube or Rumble. But it's this huge black spired, it looks demonic almost. I mean, it is a real Catholic church, but it looks really dark and weird. And it says that there used to be just a normal, white church with the normal steeples that you would expect. And it was literally, they said, this black church swallowed the old sanctuary. And this is the first symbolism of what Cain is doing, because what Cain will eventually say, again, we're going to start spoiling the ending. We're going to get into the themes of this, is that Cain's new religion is swallowing the Christian religion. It's like you said, out of the window, you get the vaguely Christian, America, the farmland Christian America. And out the other side, you get Cain's America, which is swallowing up. I mean, he literally says it. Like, he's like, I'm creating the new religion. If more people believe in my book than they do the Bible, that's what gives it power. So that's where we're going with this. But this is also where we get the clear distinction between Linda Stiles and John Trent. On the church, this is the most horror movie thing of all time. On the church is literally a sign that says, any who enter this church will be damned forever. Not subtle. Pretty. You
can't misinterpret it.
She stops to read it, by the way.
Yeah.
And what does she do? She enters the church. Dun, dun, dun.
Waltzes right in.
She waltzes right in. Of course, this is interesting to me because this is the revelation of the method. This is how these things work. They said it, but I didn't believe it. It's just a thing. It's to scare me away. It's whatever. And this is how revelation of the method works. I've explained this a bunch of times before. My favorite example I'd ever heard was like, if you're selling apples on the side of the road and you put poison apples, and people go, oh, that's a cool like brand name, like Poison. That's a cool brand name. And they buy it and they die. Well, you told them, right? And that's what Hollywood often does with these movies. They tell you, and then you don't really believe them because you think it's tongue in cheek, and it's not tongue in cheek. It's a real warning. And I think that her entering that church represents revelation of the method to a T. Yeah. And that's what we see a lot of these movies. I wasn't going to bring this up, but there's one scene. I'm sorry. I do love this movie, but there is one scene that I don't know if it aged poorly for me. I want to hear your thoughts. The church opens up to see Johnny Boy. I'm going back a minute, but like the church opens up and you see Johnny is what they call him, right? And to me, this could have been cut right out of Scary Movie because it looked like a parody or a joke on The Shining. Like you expect the kid to go red rum, and then all of a sudden the door like slams back in his face and opens and slams back in his face. And it was just like, to me, like with the right sound effect, that's like you could see it happening in like a parody movie, like Scary Movie, where it's like you see the creepy kid and then the door slams on his face and there's like slapstick. I'm sorry, this was my mind going crazy.
Hit back into the church or something like that.
But I couldn't I laughed so hard inappropriately because it was supposed to be creepy and it just did not hit for me.
Nope. Me, I'm scared easy, and even I was like, okay.
That was the worst, like
Nice
legitimately the worst part of the movie. And it's
Yes.
only a few seconds.
Not well
it just
done.
did not land for me at all, but I thought it was funny.
No.
So anyway, she enters a church. If you enter, you'll be damned forever. And she meets Sutter Kane in his typing room. And this is a red room. I've talked about the symbolism before, but it's basically a liminal space. There's a lot of red room symbolism in Freemasonry and other things like that, of a space of transition between worlds is what that represents. And she enters this transition between worlds, and we get another very obvious symbolism. As I talked about at the beginning, the union of opposites happens in this, the black and white, literally in the red room. She's fully dressed in white 100%. He's fully dressed in black 100%. We have the union of opposites. They literally come together. And in this, we get the most important. Did you have anything to say before I move on?
She did that well. She seduced him well.
I guess her seduction of Trent. Do you want to? Let's just talk. We'll step back. Let's talk about that for a minute, because I didn't even have that in my notes.
No, that's
it happens
fine.
After this scene, but let's talk about it.
It does.
It does, because this is where she becomes possessed, and then that happens. But we'll talk about it, because I'm going to go to something totally different after this. So
okay. So before you jump into the really important stuff, let me just detour away from.
Let's just talk about the misogyny of this Carpenter film.
Yes, let me just whine about it.
Yeah.
No, but so yeah, she is. All the things, right? It's fine. But then when she does that with Trent, I was just joking with you about this a few days ago, and I was like, why are all of Carpenter's romantic scenes like weird?
They
awkward,
are, though. They're
weird.
very awkward.
Like, did he just have a bad love life and he took it out on his actors and like the characters?
I can't tell if it's that or if it's just like the nihilism theme, because she comes back to the hotel and she tries to seduce him. And again, you have to watch the first scene where they meet. Very seductive. She's being very seductive. Then he shows very clear interest in her by doing the body language is on point, right? He leans up against, he doesn't give her a lot of space. He asks her to dinner. They're flirting. They're on the road together. They're in a hotel room together. Everything was set up for this to be an actually seductive scene. And instead, she's just like, take me, Trent. And it's just weird. And it's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be weird, because she's clearly possessed, and he's kind of pushing her off, and it's like, I don't know, but he doesn't believe that this is like really demonic. He believes this is a setup. He believes that the publishing company is pulling a ruse on him. So like, he's not fully pushing her away, but he's also like showing himself throughout this movie to be smarter and better than most people in horror. Yeah, very skeptical.
Yes. Well, that's why I brought it up earlier with the first scene with them two. Obviously,
it was supposed to be weird, which set it against like Red and Mustache in Prince of Darkness, which was supposed to be kind of romantic and just came off as really cold and awkward, which again might have been, I think it was intentional there too. But you're right, he does that in his movies. The relationships where they should have like that waves crashing against the shore vertigo scene. Instead, it's weird.
You, as in the audience, you're like, God, stop, make it stop. Like it
is kind of a horror thing, though, right? Because it's creepy. Yeah,
it is creepy, and it's not the kind of horror you expect.
Like, she was the kind of horror that I expected, though.
Horror.
Oh, sorry.
You expected what? What? Okay, but I did want to bring that up because
for sure.
Oh, show. You wrote that? Anyway. Love that. We're
so off track.
That's what happens when I'm here. I'm sorry. But I do think it is another point towards nihilism. That's my point. Now I'll let you get to the actual important stuff.
No. I thought that was important, though, because it's super weird. And again, it's just because they set it up to actually be seductive, and then it just it felt weird, and that was the point. But so before this, she's in the church. This is where Sutter Kane is telling her what's going on, and he says, quote, "I thought I was making all this up, but they were telling me what to write." And this was the line that made me a year ago decide we absolutely had to cover this movie. It was that line in particular before I'd ever seen this movie. And he says, quote, "They were giving me the power to make it all real." And this is where we get the idea of the tulpa, the egregore. Again, huge spoiler if you haven't backed out and watched the movie already. It's really late now because he reveals, I watched it again this morning, this scene, just to make sure I got it right. He reveals to Sam Neill, to John Trent, that he literally created him, that Trent didn't exist, that Trent is quite literally a tulpa of Kane, and that Kane's work, because everybody believes it. I guess that might make Trent an egregore as well, because people are reading these books and they bring him into existence. And that's the power that is behind Kane's writing, is the belief of everyone. It's a very occult concept. I'm going to come back to this in a minute. But just in case John Carpenter was being too subtle, then when the union of opposites happens and the black and the white come together into one pillar, there's a demon on his back, quite literally. Like, it's very, like, just in case you didn't get it, there's quite literally a demon attached to the back of his brain controlling him, right? This is the Kundalini spine snake spirit thing, like, attached and controlling this guy. Again, subtle until it's not even slightly subtle.
Until it's not at all. Yeah.
Right. But the reason I wanted to cover this so badly is, like, we've kind of hinted at this on this show. We've talked about certain people before, like David Koepp, who's like, I get these ideas from certain, like, I get these ideas when I go to sleep and it just comes to me. And artists throughout all of history have talked about the muses, right? And this is like the David Koepp thing. We've kind of got that going on. It's not like super overt. It's a little more overt when I covered Twilight. We talked about Stephanie Myers, who's like, yeah, this being just comes to me in my dreams and tells me the stories. Right? That's what she's like. Edward literally exists, and he just comes to me in my dreams and tells me these stories. And there's that one deleted, I can still debate whether or not this really was an interview with her. It seems like it was real, but it's hard to find, where she's like, yeah, after I finished the books, Edward came to me again, was mad because I made him less terrifying than he is in real life. And whatever. So, like, that's Stephanie Myers, like, getting these ideas from somewhere else. But it gets more overt when I started looking into people who have written books and that have become movies, and people have written for Hollywood. And this is the kind of linchpin of why I want to do this. There was an episode I did. It was the Twilight episode, actually, with Namrock. And we were talking about the symbolism, and it was very clearly there. And he said in the episode, he's like, I just don't think these people are smart enough. Like, I don't think Catherine Hedgewick or whatever, who directed this movie, is smart enough to have come up with that. And I don't think Stephanie Myers is either. And I said, I agree, but it's there. Very clearly it's there. And this is why I want to say this, is because there's times throughout the show where I'll talk about stuff that even I'm like, that might be a stretch. But then you see where these people are just claiming outright to get their influences from, and you start to think maybe it's not a stretch. Just like you said earlier, John Carpenter wasn't attached to two of these movies till the last minute, yet they so perfectly line up with a message that comes through over the course of 2 decades to get this message across. It's almost like something was guiding this. So I want to go through some examples. The first most obvious one, and this is again more subtle, we'll get more overt as we go along. One of my favorite directors, David Lynch. He says that he accesses a unified field of pure consciousness from his transcendental meditation. This is a very big thing for him, transcendental meditation, accessing the field of pure consciousness. He talks about this a lot in his writing process. He's more overt than David Koepp is, and he's like, I don't have these ideas. I go to sleep and they come to me, right? Mm-hmm. That's David Lynch. He calls his ideas fish. And he says he has to catch them from the stream of collective consciousness, right? He has to go to sleep and catch a big fish from the stream of collective consciousness. This is a nice little Easter egg here. There's a fish that's very important in Twin Peaks, right?
Yep.
Episode 1 of Twin Peaks. There's a fish in the percolator. There's a fish in the percolator.
Right off
the fish
the
is percolating. The idea is percolating. It's very clearly like that. If you know David Lynch and his ideas,
right,
and the way that he uses imagery to tell you important things, I believe that's what he's saying. So that's David Lynch talking about his fish, right? Mm-hmm. Sorry, do you have anything more on Lynch before I moved on? Because this stuff's weird.
No, just David Lynch. It would have to come from something else.
Right.
But if you know what he's saying, and I know more or less subtle than he is, but if you know what he's saying, you see it everywhere.
His occult concepts are so on point too. Like
yes.
Yeah.
You just have to know what you're looking at. So keep going.
Yeah, so that's David Lynch. Arthur Conan Doyle, very famous, the author of Sherlock Holmes, practiced automatic writing. I couldn't find anything that said that he said that's how he wrote his books, but that was a practice of his. He was very into spiritualism. Philip K. Dick, this one's crazy. You've probably heard of this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Philip K. Dick is the writer for Blade Runner, Minority Report, The Man in the High Castle, Total Recall, and about 15 other very famous movies that you've seen. I will say his books are better as movies.
Yes.
That's a whole nother discussion of why I think that is. But he talked about this thing called Valis. Valis, he said, was the vast, active, living intelligence system. And he says that Valis, this is literally what he said. Valis beamed the ideas for his books into his head in 1974. And he described a lot of his writings as, quote, dictated or downloaded. In personal letters, he talked about how all of his books are about the Gnostic faith, and that if you read them in a certain order, that they're the manuscript for Gnosticism, for the lost Gospels of John and Mary Magdalene and all of this stuff. So if you know what to look for in Philip K. Dick, he's the most Gnostic, one of the most occult writers, and his ideas, according to him, were downloaded or dictated to him. And he's not subtle about it. It's
a lot like automatic writing.
He didn't literally do automatic writing, but he just like an intelligence from outer space literally beamed. He said it was a pink beam, literally beamed a pink beam of information and downloaded his books into his head. That's Philip K. Dick in his own words. One of the most prolific writers turned to movie, of all time, right? I mean, everybody's seen one of these movies: Blade Runner, Minority Report, Total Recall. One of these, right? William Butler Yeats. Are you familiar with him? Poet.
Yes, Yeats. Yep.
Yeah, Yeats. So him and his wife George Hyde Lees. I don't know how you say that. They started practicing automatic writing shortly after their marriage in 1917. She would go into trances or semi-trances, and she produced pages of scribbles, phrases, symbols, and then Yeats would interpret these into his poems. They were a team. She would get them, and he would interpret them. She would dream, and he would interpret, right? And they believe that these messages came from, quote, mysterious instructors or communicators from the spiritual world. They said the entities were delivering metaphors for poetry, an entire esoteric system that could provide the structure to human history, personality, and the afterlife. One of the most famous poets of all time, William Butler Yeats. We have Grant Morrison. This one's wild. I also have to say that I translated a lot of this because it didn't make sense when I was reading this, from they did this, because apparently Grant Morrison's a they, them, which makes a lot of sense. He's the writer. He's a very prolific writer for Batman and Superman comics. He's done comics and a lot of the animated movies. Grant Morrison wrote the scripts for the animated Superman and Batman movies. He is an open practitioner of chaos and sigil magic, and he believes his work is a form of a hyper sigil, which is a work of art that it's intended to produce real world changes or to induce transformation in the reader. Right. So he's very open about what he's doing. He is pouring thoughts and intentions into sigils that he puts into his comic books as a form of magic to influence you. This is directly from the writer of this stuff. This is not me being a crazy conspiracy nut. He says he was abducted by aliens in Nepal, and during his experiences, he reported encountering a chrome-like mercurial entity that communicated with him and showed him a vision of the universe's true nature involving hyperdimensionality, and that he directly channeled this information and ideas received during this encounter into the creation of The Invisibles, which is a comic series that he says functions as a magical manifesto designed to explore and transmit these concepts. And he sees his characters such as King Mob as fictional suits or voodoo icons that he could enter and manipulate to affect change. It's pretty on the nose, pretty out there. Like, if you think my ideas are crazy, these are really successful.
What they're saying,
Hollywood writer. These are the people that are writing the movies that I'm talking about. These are the people that are changing your culture. They're just telling you outright. I was surprised at how direct some of this stuff was from their own mouths, right?
Yes.
Because like usually you hear like Rod Serling, like, yeah, I had ideas from a dream, or even David Lynch, yeah, I had ideas from a dream, or it comes from the muses. Like all of that could be interpreted in whatever way. Some of these people will say that and they'll be like, well, obviously I don't mean that literally. Like that's what a lot of them will say. And I know that's what a lot of the detractors to what I'm saying in the show will say. And then you read Grant Morrison and it's like, okay. And then you read Alan Moore, who wrote V for Vendetta. He also wrote a lot of Batman comics. He says that art and writing are themselves a form of magic. He says, quote, the science of manipulating symbols, words, or images to achieve change he says, quote, art is the science of manipulating symbols, words, or images to achieve changes in consciousness. And that modern writers like himself are this age's shamans. He also claims to be a follower of Glycon, which is a Roman snake god. So he just tells you where this comes from. Yeah. And he says that he embraces the god Glycon as fiction, but also as a valid reality, viewing gods as concepts that can be real through belief. Which is quite literally...
Get out of here.
Quite literally what this movie's about. So yes, it would have been cool to hear where DeLuca got this stuff, but DeLuca worked... He's the freaking CEO of Warner Brothers. He greenlights Alan Moore's movies. He greenlights Grant Morrison's movies for Warner Brothers for the Batman and Superman stuff. And his two best writers for these comic book movies are quite literally telling you they're channeling Roman snake gods and Lemurian entities from their trips to Nepal.
It's probably not a stretch.
It just doesn't get more do you see what I'm saying? Like this was why I feel like this episode is so important. This has been my thesis the entire time. I know on this show we say like, oh, this symbol and this and that means this, and it sounds like a stretch. Like they didn't come up with this shit. I don't think they came up with this shit. I think someone downloaded this into their brains, and I think that In the Mouth of Madness, in no uncertain terms, just tells you this is a reality in Hollywood by one of the most successful producers in Hollywood history who wrote this.
Who wrote it? He's literally telling you.
Nothing else. Like he kind of wrote a Freddy with someone else, and then he sort of wrote Judge Dredd. This movie, he wrote the whole thing. This is purely DeLuca's stuff, right? As far as the concept. And then John Carpenter, who I want to come back to John Carpenter in a minute, but what are your thoughts on that? I mean, I had more examples. I had to cut it for time. Like those were just the most interesting ones that I wanted to put into the show. I could go on for literally hours.
Yeah, I was going to say, I know that there are a million stories like that out there. I think what's important here, again, not to be repetitive, but how do I want to put this? You have these themes that run through. You have the symbols. You have all these things that it's not like you're repeating yourself, but it's more like, hey, did you see this movie? That. You see it in this and this and this. And you make all these connections to movies that should not be connected, or people that have made these movies are part of these movies.
Like you said, it's barely
a trilogy,
but yet it is, and yet it makes sense.
And yet it is almost verbatim Lovecraft, that book.
Right.
And so I think where people get lost with conspiracies is they get to this idea where it's like, well, the people behind the scenes aren't smart enough to put all this together. Yeah, I agree with you.
I've been saying this for literally years. I've been saying this for literally years.
Exactly. And that's why I think that this episode is so important, because it really brings together, it really is a culmination of what you're trying to tell everybody. This movie is telling them for you. And you can back it up with all these other examples, right?
And it's not subtle, like you said.
It's not subtle. It's not. Right. It's right there. So I just really want to bring that together. Like, I agree, people cannot orchestrate all of this throughout all of history, because it's throughout art, whatever medium you use. It's in art no matter what. Artists are usually the ones who are more susceptible or open to it, maybe?
Yes. Thank you. That's exactly where I was going to go next. So... Yes.
Yay!
I will say, too, this is Revelation of the Method. This movie is Revelation of the Method. The way that Styles walks into the church when she's been told is kind of the way that we walk into the movie theaters, the way that we ingest this stuff, and then we take it seriously and we give it our belief and our attention and things like that. And I know that sounds really hypocritical of me, because I watch this stuff and I break it down. I think there is a fine line with this stuff. I've had this conversation on the show before. I have this with my wife all the time. And I'll say it this way. If this stuff affects you, I don't suggest watching this movie or any of John Carpenter's stuff. My wife won't watch it for good reason. It affects her.
Yeah.
She feels that presence. I have prayed about it a lot. I feel like I'm supposed to expose this stuff for the reasons that I'm putting forward in this episode. But in a way, yeah, we are entering into this. We're coming into agreement with these things. And this movie's telling us where this stuff comes from. And then we ingest it all the time without thought. We ingest it without going like, maybe I shouldn't watch that, or maybe, that maybe I should think more critically about what they're saying in this movie and how that's affecting me. And that's kind of the point of this is people are watching movies, people like movies, I like movies. So I want us to look at it critically and know what we're ingesting so we can reject those ideas that are being fed to us from CIA and from demonic sources and from Hollywood's occult practitioners, right? So that's the purpose of this. I know everything I do sounds a little hypocritical because of what I'm saying, but that's the angle that I come at it from, and I hope that makes sense.
This is probably a very poor example, so you can edit it out later if you want to. But I think about demonologists, for example, like Christian demonologists. Like, you have to know your enemy, and it's not for everybody, obviously.
Well, I think because I've listened to books from exorcists, and like, if you want to become an exorcist, they won't let you. You shouldn't want to know this.
You shouldn't want it.
And if you do want to know it, it's a good sign you're going to fall prey to it.
Right. Exactly.
So if you're out there seeking out occult knowledge all the time, it's, whereas I'm not saying I have a calling from God to do this, but I do feel like through a lot of prayer that I, for at least a time, am supposed to do this stuff.
I think you can.
Or for a while, I was supposed to do this stuff. And so like, that's why I do it. And I talk about it the way that I do, because otherwise people are watching these movies. It's just like, even with like the Lego movie, it's like you watch the Lego movie with your kids, and then over time you're given this idea that is seeping into the children. And it's like you said, it comes to the artist first, right? So one other artist who I believe was channeling entities is HP Lovecraft himself, right? And this is where it gets so interesting, because HP Lovecraft was an avowed atheist. So is John Carpenter. He believed that his stories were purely fiction, right? And that he used his stories to tell his personal philosophy of cosmicism, which is the idea that humanity is insignificant in an indifferent universe. This also mirrors John Carpenter. But Kenneth Grant disagrees. Kenneth Grant is an English occultist and a ceremonial magician, and he was trained directly by Aleister Crowley. Who's the founder of Thelema, right? If you don't know who Crowley is, you're probably lost in this episode anyway.
Right.
But Kenneth Grant was considered Aleister Crowley's heir, and he later founded his own branch of Thelema called the Typhonian Order, right? And in 1972, he wrote this book called The Magical Revival. And in this book, Grant argues that Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos, rather than being mere imaginative fiction, is a result of a psychic revelation. He believes that Lovecraft tapped into the exact same occult forces as Crowley when he wrote his Book of the Law, and that Lovecraft was tapping into an Akashic grimoire the same way that Crowley had. And the Typhonian Order that Kenneth Grant created views the Cthulhu mythos as real occult material usable by magicians in ritual practice, right? This is what I find interesting, right? Is Kenneth Grant, who studied this stuff, who studied under Crowley, is making the comparisons and saying, yeah, I know H.P. Lovecraft goes to sleep and dreams of these nightmares and writes his nightmares down, but maybe he's tapping into something. And I think this is true. I think this is why this is so interesting, because John Carpenter, it's like, we said this in the first episode, it's like, does John Carpenter believe some of the stuff that we're seeing, some of the symbols that we're seeing? Because he doesn't believe in anything, right? He's an atheist, isn't he? Or is he a cosmicist like H.P. Lovecraft? But are they just being used in the same way? And to that point, I want to share this quick little, and tell me if you have any thoughts on this. I'm not trying to talk over you. But if you look at this website, these comparisons between Lovecraft's book and what Crowley wrote, it does start to make Kenneth Grant's point. Lovecraft wrote of Al-Azif, or the Book of the Mad Arab, and Crowley wrote about Al-Vel Legis, or the Book of the Law. Lovecraft talked about the great old ones. Crowley was channeling the great ones of the nighttime. Lovecraft was talking about this being called Yog-Sothoth, and Crowley was talking about Sut-Thoth. And it keeps going on and on and on and on. I'm not going to give all the examples, but Great Cthulhu was dead but lying, dreaming in sleep, and Crowley talked about the primal sleep in which the great ones of the nighttime are immersed. They're talking about the same mythos. If you understand what Crowley's saying, you understand what Lovecraft is saying. It sounds similar. It gets even weirder when, again, you read The Call of Cthulhu, because what Lovecraft says is, this is my best guess at their names. They're impronounceable in a different language. So when you read something like Yog Sothoth, and it sounds hard to pronounce in English, and then Crowley's like, I heard it as Suthoth, not Sothoth. Maybe it's because, as Lovecraft said, I don't actually know how to spell Cthulhu or how to pronounce it. I just know what I heard.
Right.
And that's clearly what he says in The Call of Cthulhu.
Yes. It makes that point several times.
It does.
In The Call of
he
Cthulhu.
says it over and over and over again in the book. He's like, I don't actually know how to pronounce this stuff.
Right. It's just what I heard.
Yeah.
Here's my best guess.
Yeah, and we did some symbols that kind of maybe almost look like English, so we just kind of made up something that we could use to say it, right? This is what what are your thoughts on this?
Well, you have made this point.
Here? Yeah.
No, you've made this point before where there are times where things sound similar in English versus like Hebrew or something. I'm making a bad comparison, but be like, just because the two words sound similar doesn't mean they're the same, because we have our languages that are set.
Oh yeah, like etymology stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. Yes. However, when there is no etymology for it,
other than the dream realm,
hearing it, right?
Yeah.
And you're
then when they sound similar, it probably means something, I think, right?
Exactly. I think there is a big difference, if that helps.
Right. Yeah. So Lovecraft, he believes he got his ideas from his nightmares. This is openly what he says. Grant believes that they were genuine occult visions. That's the difference. He's just saying this. Like, Lovecraft's an atheist, so he's already wrong. Grant's saying, hey, you think you tapped into something. It sounds a lot like my boss's work. But did Lovecraft know this was possible himself? Because he seems to also say that in The Call of Cthulhu. And I just want to show one more screen to you. This is a little excerpt from The Call of Cthulhu. And in this, he's talking, the main character's like, look, there was this guy who went mad and made this bas-relief of Cthulhu on this one night in April. And so I started asking, or my uncle who was investigating this started asking around, and he found out that during this exact same time, a lot of people were having dreams. First, he asked the scientists, or first he asked normal people, and they weren't really having too crazy dreams. I just remember being disturbed. Then I asked scientists, and they started to say, yeah, but then I'll just read from here. He says, scientific men were a little more affected, though 4 cases of vague descriptions suggest fugitive glimpses of strange landscapes. And in one case, there's mentioned the dread of something abnormal. It was from the artists and poets that the pertinent answers came. And I know that panic would have broken loose had they been able to compare notes, which didn't seem to happen between Crowley and Lovecraft.
No.
As it was, lacking their original letters, I half suspected the compiler of having asked leading questions or having edited the correspondences in corroboration of what had latently resolved to see. That is why I continue to feel that Wilcox, somehow cognizant of the old data which my uncle had possessed, had been imposing on the veteran scientists. These responses from estates told a disturbing tale that from February 28th to April 2nd, a large portion of them had dreamed very bizarre things, dreamed the same very bizarre things. So in Call of Cthulhu, he's saying over and over and over, I'm trying to investigate this to look for the fraud. And yet it seems like that the art, and he says it again later in the book, it seems like the artists and the poets are tapping into something of Cthulhu. Yeah. And what is HP Lovecraft but an artist and a poet?
Exactly.
He's saying he doesn't believe throughout the book. I mean, Thurston in this book sounds like Lovecraft. He's like, I'm getting all this stuff, this information. It seems real, but I can't believe it. It's got to be a fraud. But yet artists keep getting the same dreams. And if they were comparing notes, they'd realize that they were tapping into the same Akashic records, essentially, is what he's saying.
Yep. Boom. And that's what we've said before. These people who have no connection, even like past and present, could never have had any connection, are still saying the same things, doing the same things. It's reiterating what he's saying. And it's also a lot like Sam Neill's character, this character in the HP Lovecraft story, where it's like, there is a logical explanation. I will find it. I will find the fraud. I will point out
until the end when he's given a manuscript and comes face to face with Cthulhu, like it does in this movie.
Yes, like he does in this movie, until you just can't deny it anymore. So
right. So to continue with this movie, skipping a few things, Trent eventually tries to escape. He realizes that he's still kind of going with like, this has to be fake. But then he's trying to escape, and it's very like Silent Hill. He gets to the edge, and then all of a sudden he's back in town. He drives out, and he's back in town, right? And Linda's head turns upside down, and things go totally crazy.
Oh, yeah, that was weird.
And he runs into a guy that says, reality ain't what it used to be, which is one of the most famous lines of the movie. And eventually he finds himself in a confession booth inside of the Black Church. And Sutter Kane comes to him, and he says, quote, "Do you want to know the problem with places like this? With religion in general? It's never known how to convey the anatomy of horror. Religion seeks discipline through fear, yet doesn't understand the true nature of creation. No one's ever believed it enough to make it real. The same cannot be said of my work." So this is, I have a feeling this line is very Carpenter if it wasn't in the original script.
Right.
It's like his rants against organized religion or against Christianity in particular. Yeah. And then the idea that, like he says in the last movie, on the subconscious or on the subatomic level, reality is malleable and changeable, and, Schrodinger's cat and observing it matters and all this stuff. So he's saying all that in this. And Sutter Kane goes on to say that more people believe in my work than the Bible. And, it's just like the church that swallowed up the Bible. So like this movie's kind of making that case. This is what's so interesting to me is like the reason I've said this before. It's like sometimes people will have a knee-jerk reaction to a book or a piece of media where they're like, oh, well, it has bad things in it. And it's like, well, are the bad things happening by the bad people? Right? Like that doesn't always mean that it's bad. But in this case, it's like, yes, we know that the Lovecraftian nightmares are bad, but it's making the case kind of that they're inevitable. And that's where this gets totally wrong. Like that's where the nihilism is like the forefront part of this. What are your thoughts on? I mean, again, it's like really anti-religion, like bashing over the head again here, like the first two were, but like I wouldn't say more than Prince of Darkness, but equal to.
No.
It couldn't be as bad. I mean, Prince of Darkness was pretty overt on like on the
that one was kind of like the whole time.
Jesus was a fraud, like they literally said in the movie. So
he's an alien. Yeah.
He's an alien
and
fraud.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Like he's decent. He's also nuts. Whatever. No, this was another part. So I said this in Prince of Darkness. I came to this moment where the priest was hiding and reading his Bible, and it was really tense. Kelly is trying. I actually remembered her name. Kelly is trying to reach through the mirror
with her left hand.
To grab her dad. Grab whatever. Anyway, at that part in that movie, I started getting mad at myself for being scared. Like, this is such crap.
Right.
And they've been like, I'm sorry, but they've been shitting on your beliefs this whole movie. Why are you like, I had that whole moment. Go back and listen to that episode. You can hear my rant there. But I had it again here. And that moment again where I was like, F you, dude. Got mad for a second. Like,
I agree. Yeah.
But like we said before, and we'll say again, like just that's the point, right? Like that's the point. Not so that you get mad, but it's just so you can see it and see what they're saying. And I think it is a level of discernment that we all kind of need to have.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And get.
And I put this in my notes for later, but like the reason that this scene is worth mentioning or worth talking about is because this is where the movie ventures so deeply into Gnosticism. This idea that Cain is the demiurge. If he's not the demiurge, he's just a new one, right? He's just basically what the movie's saying is that, if you understand Gnosticism, the demiurge was just a being. He's not the God above gods. He's not the creator of heaven and earth, but he is the creator of this earth because he dreamed it into existence, right? And in this way, Cain is the new demiurge. And if you just saw Trent trying to escape the prison, just 3 prisons in this movie, really. Talking about threes. The town is a prison. The insane asylum is a prison. And then when he leaves the insane asylum, the world is a prison. And the world is controlled by the demiurge. So it's got that repetition of threes there as well. It's the prison planet. It's the Gnostic concept. He is the demiurge. And, Hobbs End is the original prison planet. And then it grows, his influence grows. And it's making the case that it's basically saying here, I mean, without saying it, but definitely saying it, that's exactly how the God that we know of, the God in the Bible, came to have the power. We believed it. We gave the demiurge power. He's going to become the new demiurge, create his own prison planet. There's also another repetition of threes, which is interesting. If you go in chronological order, Trent stays in 3 rooms. The first room is the hotel, and it's number 9. The second room is a motel as he's trying to escape. It's number 6. And then the last room is the insane asylum room, and it's number 9. So when he's in the reality and it's upside down, they're 9s, but when he's in regular reality, it's right side up and it's 6. It's just 666. He has these in all of these movies. Yes. I don't know if we mentioned the last one, but it ends in 1999, which is just 666 upside down. Mm-hmm. There's 666s in all of these, but this one was pretty obvious to me with the 3 rooms, 3 prison planets, 3 6s.
You're right.
Yeah.
Yep. I caught the 3s last time. You got them this time. There we go.
There's a lot of 3s, though. He does do that.
There are a lot of 3s.
Very occult thing. Yeah. So,
yes.
And Kane is just making the case here that his work will make people ready for this change, which is, again, it's Hollywood telling on itself. We're preparing you for the change. We're preparing you for the Antichrist. We're preparing you for the 666. We're putting it in your movies. We're preparing you for this future that we want to create through what they call sigil magic, which is the idea that you create a piece of art and you pour your intention into it, and that intention changes the readers. I know I've talked about Inception a lot because it's one of my favorite movies, but it's also one of the most effective at doing that type of magic, right? The idea in Inception is that the world you live in is not real. And then it makes you, that intention is poured into that symbol of the movie, the sigil, and then it makes you question your reality because it ends in a way that everyone still to this day 15 years later talks about. And what has happened since Inception, we have really, and The Matrix is another one. It's sigil magic. Mm-hmm. It's getting you, it's putting their intentions of getting you to believe that the world you live in is not real. It's incepting, it's planting that spinning freaking totem in your safe of your mind. That's what it's doing. And that's what this movie is saying. It's saying, we're preparing. What's the line? My work will make people ready for the change. That's what this movie's doing. So he also says in this, sorry, I wrote down a lot of quotes from Kane here because it just dumps a lot on you. So he says, when people lose the ability to know the difference between fantasy and reality, the old ones will make their journey back. I know I talked about doom scrolling and all that earlier, but is this make you think of AI at all? We're literally at a time where what is real? Did President Trump really give a video about Charlie Kirk's death, or was that AI? Because I'm pretty sure it was AI. Did Joe Biden give a speech from the White House, or was that AI? How do we know what we see in the media is real? How do we know what we see on the internet is real? Yeah, and we're already people are, because we don't go out in reality anymore. We live in a post-COVID world. Everything we view is through the screen. Right? Yeah. Everything that all the things we ingest is through a screen. And how do we tell reality from fiction? Are we prepared for the old ones to come back? Are we prepared for the Antichrist? Which is what, again, this movie is so ahead of its time, and it's terrible, but it's interesting because this also links into an episode I did recently about the what's it called? The Nick Land thing, the Dark Enlightenment, right?
Yes.
The idea of hyper-accelerationism, bringing AI into our world and letting them become the gods and destroy humanity to make way for literally the Lemurians, as Nick Land calls it. By the way, Call of Cthulhu constantly talks about theosophy and says that the theosophists were right about Atlantis and Lemurians, except that they just didn't realize that it was Cthulhu and it was way worse than they thought. So that's also a concept in there. But Nick Land literally talks about this too. And he doesn't only talk about, when we'll be ready for the Lemurians or the old ones or the demonic entities to come back into this world and take charge, which is after hyper-accelerationism, when you can't tell reality from fiction. That's Nick Land's concept. Yeah. But he also believes that it'll happen through this thing called hyperstition, which are stories that are used as spells to hack the collective unconsciousness, which is what this movie is about.
Which is exactly what this is about. I want to bring up something before I lose it. Sorry.
Yeah.
Because that's how my brain works. If we had this conversation in 1994 after watching this movie, everybody would have looked at the two of us and been like, get your freaking tinfoil. Y'all are so nuts. What are you talking about? And what? 30 years later? How old am I?
31 years later.
A few years later. A few.
It's definitely not been 30 years since the 90s. There's no way.
No. It was like 10 years ago.
I think I'm still like 27, right?
That's how I feel.
Yeah.
Oh, 27. Don't say that. 26.
We'll talk about 27 again in a
27.
second because that's the next scene.
That's the next part. But my point is 30 years later, talking about it, it's like, oh, I can see how all of this came together.
Way ahead of its time. But what does he say in the movie? This was to prepare us for the future.
I think it sure did.
And when did this movie find its cult following? In 2025, basically.
Recently. Yeah.
Very recently. Yeah.
Look at that book coming out, because obviously there's a market for it.
Yes.
The Sutter Kane.
Yes. Now we're ready to accept it.
Yeah.
Essentially.
And I don't want to sound too. Yeah. And I don't want to sound too nihilistic myself saying all of this. But just keep in mind, like, had we talked about this 30 years ago, we would have sounded nuts. So just like,
I think the difference between what we're saying and nihilism, I think the difference between what we're saying and nihilism is like, we know how the story ends, right? We believe in the Bible. We believe that that these bad things will happen.
Yes.
But it's not the end. It's not like this,
that's not
cosmic horror type concept of it.
Exactly.
There's a redemptive aspect to it. Yeah. No, I agree. And it's weird because when I wasn't podcasting for a long time, and I told you this, like you said, a year ago, that was about when I stopped. I had 2 episodes I knew I needed to do. I needed to come back and do 2 episodes. I needed to do The Dark Enlightenment, and I needed to do this. And when I get to the end of this and I realized they're connected, it kind of blew my mind. I was like, this hyperstition concept, this idea of AI accelerationism and when reality will stop being knowable. That's what the movie's about. And that's what the Dark Enlightenment's about. And those were the 2 things that a year ago I knew I had to at least come back to do those 2 episodes. So I don't know. This one's important to me, guys. That's all I'm saying. Got a few more things I want to talk about.
I have goosebumps. Like, I'm extra jittery. Sorry, because I just have all the goosebumps right now. So, sorry.
No, that's how I knew. That's why I knew everything was going to go wrong at work today, so I wouldn't get home in time to do this. So I still made it. So everything did go wrong at work today. It's one of those days.
Right.
Anyway, so after this whole speech, there's this really crazy thing where Sutter Kane just like rips himself open. He just tears himself apart like a book page, and we see that reality is fiction, and they're how can you tell the difference? And the old ones come through the book. They come through and pour into our reality through fiction. It's pretty obviously what it's saying, right? This type of stuff, this sigil magic through the fiction, through the magic of Hollywood is going to bring in these things. And we get this concept, again, as I was talking about, the old ones as egregores that require our belief to manifest. I've talked about this before, and again, I would suggest watching that Gravity Falls episode, but my belief on egregores is that you're basically giving a physical body to a spirit, right? It's allowing
giving them the energy they need.
Exactly. Exactly. I don't agree with the occultists on everything, but I do think that their concepts come from reality, even if it's twisted, even if it's bent and it's wrong. It's kind of like the Witch of Endor thing. It's like, I know a lot of Christians would be like, oh, mediumship doesn't happen. It's not real. It's made up. And it's like, well, the Bible says it does. It just says it's bad. Like, it's literally there in 1 Samuel. So, but I found this article, and, I was talking about this earlier with what Kenneth Grant said about HP Lovecraft, but I just want to bring this up. He says, there's this guy who wrote about the great old ones, and he says, the great old ones have been created, and as such, they have reality as well. And they gain power, substance, and influence as archetypes, or perhaps more accurately, as egregores. When they are assessed, or when they are accessed and interacted with by magical practitioners, and also by the countless fans, readers, and students of Lovecraft's work, consequentially, magic rituals based on the great old ones do yield viable results, a fact which I can attest to myself, which is supported by the magical experiments of many other occultists. So he's agreeing with Kenneth Grant. He's probably in the Typhonian order or something akin to it. He's talking about these things as egregores. He's saying that these magical practices created by Kenneth Grant using Lovecraft's idea of Cthulhu works. But then he says something even weirder after this. So he says, if you didn't think that was weird, he says, note carefully that Stedman described the old ones as egregores, a term coined in the 19th century in France and used by occultists to describe the watchers from the Book of Enoch. As he wrote in The Great Secret, the colossal forces have sometimes taken shape and have appeared in guises of giants. These are the egregores of the Book of Enoch. The word derives from the Greek for watcher, and it appears in 2nd Enoch as Gregory. So, again, if you didn't get what all this is and how this ties into my belief system, the old ones that they're accessing, the reason that I do believe that Crowley and Lovecraft and all these other people are accessing something similar, the Lemurians, whatever you want to call them, is because where all those words come from is the Watchers, are the, as in the days of Noah will be the end, right? So like this is the thing they're giving power to bring back the Watchers, as the Bible quite literally says will happen. Will happen.
Like that is the end. As in the days of Noah. People question what that means. This is what it means.
That's my opinion on it anyway. I actually did not know till reading this that the egregore concept came from Enoch and the Watchers. So
I didn't either. And
I knew it was a French word. I just didn't know that it came from Gregory from 2nd Enoch. So
yeah, and it makes sense.
But it makes sense with the great old ones, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. And what's so crazy is you think like the old ones or whatever name they put on it takes away from the Watchers, if you will, or takes away from the biblical story. I don't want to say the biblical story, but the biblical truths, because they're like, well, put a new face on it, and then people won't make that connection. It's something totally different. The Bible's outdated. Didn't know, and Enoch, didn't know what they were talking about.
Yeah, so like, I know that you think this too, so I'll just say it. Like, I'm not making the case for Enoch being in the Bible, but what I am saying is that the Watchers show up in Daniel and then in Jude and I think 2nd Peter, maybe one other part, Revelation. There's a couple of places in the New Testament where they reference the story of the Watchers from Enoch, saying that part is true. So at minimum, Jesus references it as well. So at minimum, if you're a Bible believing Christian, you don't have to believe all of Enoch. Definitely not 2nd and 3rd Enoch. No. Definitely not 3rd Enoch. But the parts where the Bible says that those parts of Enoch are telling a truth, they might be historical fiction. They very well could be, but those parts are true according to the Bible. So as a Christian, it's not some weird thing to say what we're saying. If you understand the context and are careful to not like dive into the Gnostic
Go
3rd
too
Enoch.
Far with it.
Yeah, you could. Well, yes, the 3rd Enoch is the one that the Freemasons are obsessed with. So it's a very Gnostic text, but and I think I talked last week about Lemurians and Atlantis and John Dee and Enochian and all that stuff. Those are occult concepts. So not 3rd Enoch is what I'm talking about. Because they worship these things. They worship the Watchers, and that's what they're getting at. So the last part of this movie, this is why I love John Trent, just to come back to that concept. The very next thing we get is another very obvious occult symbol in this movie. John Trent leaves Hobbs End, leaves Devil's End, and winds up at the crossroads. And I said 27 earlier. If you guys don't know, Robert Johnson sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads. It's very obvious symbolism. And in this part, he's literally told to sell his soul to the devil get this book, to get this thing, and to take it into the world. And John Trent leaves it. I love it because no one else ever does this. Then he goes to the hotel and he's given it again and he burns it. And it's just like anybody who knows anything about this stuff, like these magical things that you're not supposed to be in possession of, the only thing you can do is leave it or burn it. In fact, like exorcists will tell you, like, don't throw away. Like if you were a Ouija board, user, or you did use this and that and the other, don't throw it away. Don't let someone else get it. That has power. Burn that. Get rid of it. Destroy it. And he does both. And this is where the movie is so nihilistic because, again, no other time in a horror movie does the hero do everything right, walk away from the demon-possessed girl, leave the crossroads without taking the deal, burn the evil book, and then still loses. That's why this movie's so nihilistic, because you have to love John Trent. He didn't do anything wrong.
No, he didn't. That's also why it's so nihilistic. Like,
And he's an egregore.
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
That's been like a thing we've said through all three movies, and I'll say it again. It just doesn't matter. It does, but not in these movies. If you didn't get it before, let's make sure you do now. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. People don't matter.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what you do.
This movie gets the most meta ending of all time, especially for 1994. He leaves the insane asylum. The world has gone mad because everybody's read the book, and they're like, well, not everybody reads books. He's like, oh, but we made it a movie.
Don't worry.
Telling you again. It's like, don't worry if Philip K. Dick wrote it and nobody's reading Philip K. Dick. We'll turn him into a movie. We'll make sure you get the Gnostic message. We'll make sure we put the sigil magic somewhere else where it's more accessible. We'll put it on TikTok. We'll do all the stuff, right? That's kind of what this movie's saying in a very meta way. And then the coolest part, the ending. And again, this is where I wish I'd seen the ending without knowing, because I think it would have landed better. I am also realizing that it would have landed better with different music, but that's just a nitpick. Yeah. I think the creepy Carpenter's thing in the hospital in the beginning set the tone. And if the movie would have ended with that, I think it would have stuck better. Because you and me were talking about why the ending felt a little flat. I think it was the music.
I think so too.
But he goes and sees a movie, and it's the movie we were all watching. Yeah. It's literally John Trent sitting in the movie theater watching himself in a movie. He's the egregore. He's in the movie. He's come to reality. What do you think of the ending? I mean, it's brilliant in a meta way, and I loved it. But
absolutely, I do too. I loved it too, and it's funny because you see this kind of evolution of Trent, where he's first in the insane asylum, and like I said, at that point when he's first let in, but administered,
dragged in. I mean, he literally wanted to get in. It showed at the end too. He wanted to get in. He literally killed someone to get in.
He did.
Do you
he also
do you read Sutter
sorry about your balls?
Be surprised.
Yeah. And he's being dragged and he's kicking and fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry about the balls. That was a good line too. Yeah.
It was just a lucky strike.
Apparently, sorry, just real quick, little movie trivia for you guys. Apparently, they blasted him with cold and hot air and threw water on him or something like that to make him look crazy in that scene. And it works so well. He looked frazzled. So it really method acting, but it was good.
But it worked. And that's my point in this is it really worked at that point. And then he's got the crayon and he's supposed to look crazy, but you can see in his eyes, he's like, no, this is my safe zone. I will do whatever I have to stay right here and stay safe. I'm not as crazy. I haven't finished the book. And it says that in that part.
Well, he won't read it. He won't read it.
He won't read it.
He does everything right.
Then at the end, he does everything right. And then at the end, the first time I watched it, I was just not disappointed, but because I should have known.
Well, he does. He gives into the madness.
He's going to give up.
He does the thing wrong at the very end, but
at the very end,
it's nihilistic, as in it doesn't matter. So
exactly, and he comes to that doesn't matter what I do, so I might as well go watch this movie. But again, he goes from being in his padded room, looking like I'm fine, but I'm going to stay right here, and then he gets out and he's does not look fine anymore. Right? He has definitely gone down. He's given up. You can see it on his face. And then you hear it in his laugh, which Sam Neill, bravo. Nice job. That laugh.
I've heard people say they would have cast someone else. I would not cast anyone else. I thought he was so good in this role.
I loved him in this role.
Your wife did great. My wife hated the movie. That's the difference.
Yes.
So
yeah, that is the difference.
Yeah, this is the only, my wife never watches any of this stuff with me for the show, except the kids.
I made her.
And she watched this one with me, which is, if you know my wife, she hated it. So I don't even know if she'll listen to this episode. She probably will, but
she might.
She usually does listen to the episodes, but she doesn't like a lot of the movies. I think sometimes she won't even listen to the episode. Prince of Darkness, she was like, nah, I'm not even listening to that one. I don't blame her. I talked about this earlier. The stuff just affects her differently, and I don't hold it against her.
I'm teasing, but I'm not, because I respect the fact that she's like, nope, not doing it. So
right. Well, I don't want to talk too much about my wife, but she has had encounters with tulpas and things like that in the past. So it's her experience is a lot of a lot of my wife's experiences have shown me the reality of this stuff. My wife is, as a Christian, her whole life being tormented by sleep paralysis and tulpas and things like that. And she's not crazy. You know, my wife. She's crazy in different ways, you know, but
she's crazy in a fun way.
She knows the reality of this stuff. And that's why I don't take it lightly. And that's why I want to warn people about this stuff and show people the reality of the stuff that Hollywood messes with and that puts into our homes through this stuff. So what's your final thoughts on this movie,
on just this
trilogy?
Movie or the trilogy? Yeah.
Well, we'll go through both. I know this episode will be long. All of them have been. There's so much to dive into in these, and I just don't care. When I started the show, I wanted to keep the episodes shorter. It's just not happening with these. They're a gold mine, a treasure trove of occult
so much
weirdness.
To talk about.
There's a lot to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe a cesspit, not a gold mine. A cesspit of occult weirdness.
Cesspit that you just want to dive into.
It's hard because I do like the movies, like as
I do too, darn it.
I didn't realize what a Carpenter fan I was till we did this. I mean, I always liked The Thing and Escape from New York, Big Trouble in Little China. But
I like that one too. Speaking of magic, but anyway, that's a different episode.
Never covered that one. That one's got some weird stuff in it too, but I haven't seen it in 20 years. So
it's been a minute, but yeah, there's weird stuff in that too. This movie, I'll start there. We know we've made it very abundantly clear how much I love horror movies. I don't. So this is more my style, I guess, if I was going to pick the type of horror movie to watch, because I love a good psychological, like in your mind, more so than the jump scares.
Like Shutter Island.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Love that kind of stuff. So I liked this movie in that regard. Again, sound like a hypocrite, but appreciated it for what he did with it. But I also, the trilogy as a whole, it's great in that you and I got to talk about all the aspects of movies that we wanted to. Like, we got all the symbolism. We got just like a good, solid horror movie out of The Thing. And then in this one, we got a big concept, which I think is wrapped up in all of them, which we've talked about.
A concept that I feel like I've had a hard time really getting across to people. And I hope that this kind of laid the, I wanted this to prove the thesis of why I've been doing this, of like why this stuff matters. And when you read the just literal words from people like Alan Grant, or what is his name? Grant Morris, and the guy from V for Vendetta, I forgot his name already, Alan Moore. They're just not subtle about it. Just like this movie's not subtle about it.
Right. Well, we have talked about this for a long, long time, not just doing this movie, but we have talked about this concept for a long, long time. And I feel like you have finally found the medium you needed to really bring it to everybody's attention. So in so many ways, I have enjoyed doing this trilogy. I also just want to watch Happy Things for a long time now.
I'm going to watch the Lord of the Rings trilogy this weekend, so.
But I love those too.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
No, I'm not saying for the show. I'm saying I'm going to watch them. It's like something enjoyable and not like.
Yes, exactly. Yes, exactly.
What? Good triumphs over evil?
No way. But you know what? That's funny, because I was thinking about Lord of the Rings compared to this too. And I was like, that had such a profound effect on. It's funny that you brought that up. It had such a profound effect on culture too. Like, people learning how to speak Elvish, and so it can be done. Like the medium that they're using, it can go the other way too. It's not. Don't be discouraged. Like, look at Lord of the Rings.
Well,
is still
I feel like we did that with Odd Thomas too, though. It's not all like true. I thought that was a really good one.
It was a really good one with a good message, and like, so this magic, if you will, I don't want to call it that per se in the other realm and the other
I know what you're trying to say. Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying. Again, PJ's been interpreting for me this all 3 episodes. So it's not so depressing in that it can be reversed. It can be done, like the light, the goodness, I'm trying not to use so many new agey things.
No. I know what you're saying, though. I feel like it's so easy to try to throw away movies or books or music or things like that. And people have done it historically tons of times, right? There's a point where the piano was not allowed in church because it was what they used in bars to make bar music. So that was not allowed in church. So yeah, I think throwing away the medium that we use to make art is stupid. Especially as Christians, I've always been against this. I mean, I fought this battle on the front lines as a metal musician, and yeah, that was the whole thing. So, my point is, I agree with you, and I think you're right, and I think that as much as I think it's good to point out where the stuff is and to expose it to the light. I would highly suggest you guys find really positive things too. Don't just fill your mind with this crap. Because even I feel I've always tried to do this stuff from a very positive perspective. I've always tried to bring light to everything that I'm doing, but it's impossible not to feel bogged down by this stuff at some point or at certain times. So don't dwell in this stuff. I really do hope you guys find something positive. Find good books, find good movies, find something positive to focus on. Don't doom scroll. Don't give in to that defeatism, that nihilism. Because if you look at all this stuff, I've said this about conspiracy stuff since I started podcasting. If you look at the conspiracy stuff and you walk away black-pilled and nihilistic, you've done it all wrong. You've actually given in to the enemy. It's why in some ways a lot of the conspiracy content is controlled opposition in that way. Is that on one hand, you got the people who are pulling the levers of power, and on the other hand, you've got people despairing. And that's not good either. I think you're just giving them everything that they wanted anyway. That's why they don't care about you. That's why they're not shutting down most conspiracy podcasts. That's why they're not censoring most people anymore, because you're just making everybody despair. You're giving into nihilism, and you're kind of doing their work for them when you do that, in my opinion.
Agreed, 100%. I think my final point in all of this is just not to give in to despair. You can see, it's good to see what the enemy's doing. It's good to see what is being done in front of you, but it's also more important, I think, to remember who wins in the end, which is what you had said earlier. It's a good reminder of like, yeah, this bad stuff's coming, but we also know that that's not the true end of all of this. And so don't get carried away. Don't let it bring you down. I know for me, it makes me angry, and then I have to like calm down and remember.
Well, interestingly enough, I think I was saying this earlier, but like Lovecraft and John Carpenter through channeling Lovecraft is showing you where to put your despair. And I think what I would challenge you to ask yourself is, where do you put your hope? I'm not trying to sound like a cheesy, hanging on your bathroom wall thing, but you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're focused on like, well, who's going to destroy us? Is it the old ones? Is it the CIA? Is it China? Is it the Republicans or the Democrats or whatever? Like, if you're just looking for where do you put your despair, I feel like that's just a really shitty way to live. So I always try to encourage people to. It is easy. It's really easy.
I'm sorry, that's easy.
It's really easy to look for, well, this is going wrong. You can do it all day. I mean, this has been the critique of, and I think it was intentional, but the critique of the 24-hour news cycle. In the 90s, we got cable. And with cable came 24/7 Fox and 24/7 CNN. I almost said CIA. Same difference.
Same thing.
Mockingbird. But that's where, they realize that if they sell people fear 24/7, 365, people will stay glued to the TV. They'll stay doom scrolling. They'll do this, do that. They are casting a spell on you.
Yes, absolutely.
Hollywood's casting a spell on you. The media is casting a spell on you. The left-right paradigm of the Hegelian dialectic is casting a spell on you. And I just hope that if I've done anything over the years of podcasting, that it's not to show you the world is bad, despair. But here's the playbook of the enemy. Here's the victory at the end of the Bible. That's my belief. And that's where I find place my hope in. So that's what I would like to leave you guys with, if nothing else. And I say that because I said this earlier in the episode, but I knew back a year ago that I had to come back and I had to cover the Nick Land stuff, the Dark Enlightenment stuff. I knew that I had to come back and cover this movie. I knew that those were both really important. I don't know what I'm supposed to do next. And I don't know if that's going to be podcasting. I say that to say, I don't know what's next for me, guys. I came back in part because you guys were so encouraging to me. Elise was, a lot of my friends were, people have followed me since I started podcasting in 2019. I didn't go out last year the way that I wanted to. I had stuff to say. I still have stuff to say. I don't know if this is the medium for me going forward. And so through a lot of prayer and consideration with my wife, I don't know if I'm going to keep doing this. There are certain things that I've prayed about that I want to happen if I'm supposed to do this the way that I envisioned it back when I had the idea for this in 2015. But Christmas is coming up and I'm taking some time off, and I don't know if I'm coming back to this. I don't know. I didn't even tell Elise I was going to do this. I can tell it's making her sad, but I didn't want to tell you this before or anybody because it's a decision that I had to really think and pray about a lot, and I wasn't sure how to weave it into this episode. But I knew this was important, and I don't know what the next thing is. So I just wanted to thank everybody a lot for getting me to come back and cover the things that I knew I was supposed to cover. And I don't know what the next thing is. I do have stuff that I'm working on. I'm going to take some time to be with my family. I'm working on publishing a book, and I don't mean to keep pushing it every time, but I'm not going to just totally disappear. But the truth is that I don't have the passion for this the way that I once did, and I know the audience doesn't either. And that's not to brag on you guys or myself. I had things that I needed to say, and I think I might have said them in this medium and in this format, and that might be where it's at, and there might be more to it. So for now, I'm just saying, just like I did with Dark Ocean, I hit that point where I covered the Dark Enlightenment that I knew I was supposed to, and I said, hey, I don't know if I'm going to do this weekly. And I've hit that point with Real Conspiracies where this was the thesis of everything I've been saying for years. And I hope it came across the way that I wanted to. I prayed a lot that I would be able to say the things in this episode the way that I wanted to, because this was very important in what I've been trying to say. So that's where I'm leaving it at right now, guys. I will be around. I hope you pray for me. I don't know what I'll do. I don't mean to make my sister cry because she's been my biggest supporter my whole life. I love you.
I love you too.
Just wanted to say all that, guys. I didn't plan this, but I just knew throughout this episode that I did need to say this at the end. I wasn't sure if I was going to, but it feels like closure to me. So I want to say all that, and I wanted to just ask you guys if you want to keep supporting me. I'm trying to do what I was saying. I'm actually trying to create positive artwork. I think one of the things that I've missed is that I started my young adult life as an artist, making music that was supposed to be hopeful. And through podcasting and stuff like that, I feel like I've exposed people to certain truths and hopefully given them things, knowledge, equipped you guys with knowledge. But I really, really feel the call to go back into creating positive artwork. And in that, I'm trying to create books is the thing I'm doing right now. I'm writing. I'm loving it. It gives me more time with my family. It lets me create in a very exciting and fun way for me. And I've finished Patch Notes Apocalypse. And I don't just mean the rough draft. I went through an editing process that took longer than writing the initial drafts. And the final product I'm very proud of. And I know that a lot of people might not like the book or the genre. You could go to Royal Road. I'll leave the link in the description. You can read the whole thing for free. You can read people's reviews that said, I don't like this type of book, but I like this. There's a lot of concepts in here that I feel like I'm able to say more effectively in a fiction format. The way that I've broke apart the fiction of these movies that we talk about and the concepts that I think really get to people, I want to come at that from another angle. So this is the thing that I feel really called to be doing right now. I don't mean to keep pushing my book, but I really do hope you guys support it. It really means a lot to me, and this is where I feel called to. I'll stop rambling about it. If you guys are done listening to stuff about In the Mouth of Madness, you don't know who I am, and you came to this episode for that, I'm sorry for this long outro. But this podcasting thing has been my life for 6 years, and I've met thousands of people. I've streamed in front of over 100,000 people at one point, and you know Rumble Live. I've gotten more messages in the last year from people I didn't even know listen to my stuff. I didn't realize how many people have listened to me over the years at a point about a year ago, and it's small now, and I get that. I've been gone for a long time, and I haven't been doing my job promoting this stuff. But we had tens of thousands of regular weekly listeners, and So some people listening to this have been with me for a long time, and I just want to say thank you guys again. And I'll let Elise talk because I'm just rambling. But what did you want to say?
I didn't want to.
I hate this stuff.
I didn't want to interrupt you.
No, it's hard for me. It's a goodbye in a lot of ways, but it's not. I'm just transitioning to something else for now, and I don't know if I'll come back to this.
Right. Well, I am super, super spoiled because we're still going to have these conversations all the time anyway.
Christmas is coming up.
I know. Exactly.
I get to be the crazy uncle. You know how fun it is to be the crazy uncle?
Oh, yes. My goal is to be the scary aunt. And I think I'm nailing it. So I think I'm doing that well. So you can be crazy. I'll be scary. We got this. But I will keep this short, but I am so proud of you. And I am not saying this because I'm your sister. I'm saying this because I am your best friend and you are my best friend. I am so proud of you and everything that you've done. And this new direction you're going is amazing. I've gotten to read PJ's stuff. Again, not saying this because I'm his sister. These books are amazing. And they're like, if you love all of the things that PJ says so eloquently, and he just brings to light in ways that you didn't think of before, he put it in a book form that is entertaining and hilarious. And I'll just keep pushing your book if you're not going to, because it's phenomenal. Go read it for free.
Listen, I know that I ramble a lot when I podcast sometimes. The great thing
he has an editor, though.
But I have an editor, so my rambling gets cut down to something concise. That is not me just saying the same thing over and over again. So if you like what I say, but you wish it was shorter and more to the point.
And full of cryptids and guns.
Conspiracies and guns.
Conspiracies and awesome.
I had a lot of fun writing this. So
a lot of fun reading it.
But it's funny, after I finished it, I was able to come back home and I got the opportunity to come back and do this. And I knew that I had two important things to say, and I think I've said those things. And so I just want to say I appreciate you guys all. This ending's been long. It's hard for me to do this. I can tell I made my sister cry. But I love you, Elise. I love you guys who have supported me over the years and who have made this possible. And I really hope that something I've done or said over the last 6 years of doing this has affected you in some way, in a positive way. And with that, I'll say thank you guys for coming here. Please pray for me as we go forward. I'll leave links in the description where to find this book. Literally, it's free. You can read it online for completely free. You don't even have to sign up for an account. If you do want to sign up for an account, because that helps me to grow, you just log in with Google on Royal Road. You don't have to actually create an account. It's very easy. But that's the way to support me going forward. And until next time, everyone, keep it real. I'm sorry.
Asshole. I'm just kidding.